All right, this is not a ride share video. This is not a ride sharing video. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Today, we're going to be asking a simple question. Despite numerous indictments, despite numerous cases facing number 45, President Trump, support for the former commander-in-chief continues to rise. So we're going to be asking the question today, in light of all of the charges orbiting around the former commander-in-chief, why is his support rising? Does crime pay, assuming the allegations against President Trump are true, at least in part? Maybe they're not, but there's a hell of a lot of charges being placed against the former president. Does crime pay? Is he actually benefiting from the numerous court cases orbiting around him? Why is his support rising? It's as if the more they charge him or allege him of committing crimes, the greater his support is. So I wanted to get on here and talk to the folks and find out, how does that work? Now, obviously, we're talking about my beloved MAGA, the law-abiding party. At least that's what you often hear. So why is a guy that is constantly being accused of skirting the law gathering more and more support? So I want to have the folks explain that to yours truly, because I am going to admit I'm clueless on how that works. Nevertheless, the program is and always will remain MAGA friendly. MAGA are my preferred guests. Liberals are welcome as well. As always, I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. You don't have to agree with the host. Nobody's going to block you or limit your time simply because you don't agree with the host. We don't do that here. First Amendment reigns supreme. Going to the comments. Will lose their subscription benefits soon. J&J, I don't quite get that one. Trump full of shit, says user 29. Elaborate. How do you believe the former commander-in-chief is full of shit? Ain't no equal justice, says Joseph Hall. Has there ever been equal justice in this country under the law? By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes, 700 plus of you in here. Appreciate that. The box is indeed open. You're the man, bro. Thank you. I mean, Al Capone was loved, says Sadie. You know, you do have a point, but at the end of the day, they got Al Capone on what? Tax evasion. What is Trump currently facing? Obviously, January 6th with Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, now with the documents case, which, in my opinion, probably his most difficult hurdle is going to be Jack Smith. But then, of course, there's January 6th, I mentioned. Georgia is on my mind. He has a case coming up in Georgia that most folks feel he will be indicted between July and August. So a third indictment is highly likely. And then there's a civil case in New York for the sum of a whopping $250 million. Now, Trump is obviously no poor guy. The E. Jean Carroll $5 million case, he could throw that like lunch money. $250 million is a significant amount of money. That's different. That will affect him in some way or another. $250 million, shit. All right, looking in the comments. What Dems so afraid of, says Mo. Well, and that's one of the questions I also wanted to ask. Do you believe, because Trump is alleging that Biden is trying to have his strongest competitor incarcerated. Do you believe, in regards to what Mo asked, what Dems are so afraid of, do you believe that the charges being imposed on President Trump, at least federally, are being orchestrated by Joe Biden? Do you believe Biden is deliberately orchestrating all of this against Trump? I love to hear you guys elaborate on that, because that's what I'm hearing. We're going to go straight to the box. Moo, the Tzico cat. Good.
Oh wow, man, you're a quick one today.
Say that again.
You're a quick one today.
It was a little lighter work day, so I figured I'd get on and talk to the folks. So why
Yeah.
is Trump's support growing every time he gets charged with something?
Why did you support what? I'm sorry.
President Trump's support seems to be growing the more he is charged with committing an infraction. Why is that?
What indicates that his support is growing? I
The
don't see
polls.
anything to indicate that the polls. What support has grown? He hasn't gotten any new voters other than his MAGA maggots. His
He,
support hasn't grown at all. He has no new support at all.
that's actually not true. If you look at the polls, his growth, and when you compare him and Ron DeSantis, the
And
separation between him and Ron DeSantis has grown.
so that's outside the Republican Party, right? You're talking about independents and people who don't normally vote for Trump. You're talking about that kind of growth because that's the kind of growth he needs to win. So if it's not that kind of growth, there is no growth. It's the
Well,
same people that always vote Republican. That's not growth.
yeah, but the first hurdle is the primary. We'll talk about the general, but the first hurdle he has to achieve is a victory in the primary, and his support towards
Uh,
winning the primary is getting bigger.
well, because Republicans like criminals. That's easy. They like criminals. The more of a criminal you are, the more popular you are with Republicans. Easy
But
answer.
but wait a minute, Muda, the Republican Party prides itself on being the party of law-abiding citizens. The law is
Yeah,
the
I mean, people pride themselves on things that they don't actually practice all the time. The Catholic Church prides itself on being an upstanding organization, right? But really, they just go after children left and right. So, you can say a lot of things. That doesn't mean that's actually what you're doing.
yeah. So you believe that all of that law-abiding stuff is hypocritical?
Yeah, it's all bullshit, man. That party, I mean, the Democrats have a lot of issues too, but that party's full of child traffickers. I mean, people in the closet having trouble with their sexuality. I mean, that's part of the reason why they have issues with LGBTQ, right? Because half of them look at an LGBTQ person, they're like, oh shit, I'm attracted to this. I can't handle it. I need to go fuck these people over.
So you wait a minute. So you believe the Republican Party has a lot of closeted LGBT members in its own ranks?
Oh yeah, man. Now, like half of these people are locked up in the closet, right? They're taught Christian. A lot of them are taught Christianity their whole lives. They suppress their sexual desires, and they're told they need to be the manliest of men. They need to be alpha males. So then, when they look at an LGBTQ member and they say, I kind of like that," they can't handle it, and then they have to go on tears and go against them and say, "Oh, I want to unalive all LGBTQ." They can't handle it.
But I talk to folks on the right. Some of my beloved MAGA will tell you all day. They have no issue with the LGBT community. They just do not want children being harmed, or they don't want the lifestyle being shoved down their throat.
Yeah, you have no issue, but you don't want to see them. You don't want to see them on TV. You don't want to see them walking down the street. You don't want to hear about them. I mean, you have a huge problem. Again, you say things, but then your actions don't add up to what you say, right? You can say you don't have a problem with them, but then, oh, they're shoving shit down my throat. I don't want to see them. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want them to be alive. That kind of thing.
Don't want them to be alive? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I already told you. It's CPAC, that one guy, Walsh, advocating for genocide on the LGBTQ. They
Jesus.
do. I
Okay.
mean, this is a thing, right? The Republican Party are advocates of genocide against the LGBTQ community. That's not a secret.
So in the comments, because this is obviously aimed at our conversation, Dan in the comments, full cap says, Dims, stay away from our kids. 3 exclamation points. And then says freaks. So he is suggesting members of the LGBT community are freaks that are trying to impose their lifestyle on children. That's what we're
What I
talking
would
about.
say is, yeah, sure. What I would say is you need to keep the Republicans away from kids, man, because they're dragging them into Catholic churches, right? Where they're in real, real danger, man. Like your kids are legitimately in danger. You taking them to a Catholic church, but you're okay with that, right? But not one news story of an LGBTQ person abusing your children. It's a bullshit theme, right? So that you guys have someone to hate on, so that you don't need to worry about jobs, the environment, taxes. It's all bullshit that your party feeds you, so you don't real worry about real issues, and you focus on owning the libs, but really you're just owning yourself.
Mm. So at the end of the day, before I part ways, the summary is you believe Republicans like criminals. That's what you
They
told me.
do.
You believe
Yeah,
Republicans. Go
absolutely.
ahead.
Like Matt Gates is still there, right? Matt Gates trafficked a young girl, a 17-year-old, and he's still there, right? I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a sexual deviant, right? She left her husband to get with some tantra dude, right? These people are all kinds of fucked up when it comes to sexuality. They just can't admit it.
Mm. All right, Moo. You didn't take it easy on me today at all. Appreciate you coming in. Damn,
Have a
damn.
good one, man.
Always a pleasure. All right, looking in the comment section, as always, clear. I don't block, ban, or censor anyone. The program is and always will remain MAGA friendly, but I do let liberals in as well. You get to state your point here without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored. Looking in the comments, Christian, what did that say? Oh, shit. My thing is flipping up. Libs want to bring their adult children, or better yet, libs want to bring their adult entertainment to children. I'd love to hear you elaborate on it. What do you mean by adult entertainment? Now, I understand there has been some books found in various schools that did discuss sexuality in fairly in-depth detail. Now, my humble opinion, I believe there is a difference between published material that is inappropriate as opposed to being harmful. I don't believe telling a 14-year-old, having books in school that a 14-year-old can read that talks about, pre-com and things like that. That's not from an educational standpoint, but from a novelistic erotica standpoint. I don't believe that's appropriate to have in schools, but I don't believe it's harmful. And the Republican Party is suggesting that this stuff is harmful. And I say that because by the time I was 14, I had my own damn porn stash already anyway. I had plenty of Playboy, Penthouse. I even had Swank for you folks that are old enough to remember Swank. Shout out to Swank. So I've seen a lot of this shit by the time I was 14. So I don't think it's harmful, but I do believe it's inappropriate. We'll keep it moving. We'll go straight back to the box. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 10,000. I appreciate that. We'll keep it moving with Purple Lion. Good afternoon. Welcome to asking, why is President Trump support growing despite all the criminal allegations against him?
Hey, Mr. Liberal, how you doing today?
It's always a pleasure. Doing good. Talk about number 45, Trump. His support is growing every time he faces criminal allegations. His support rises. Why is that?
Sometimes I wonder if the polling is even right, because I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, compared to what Moo the Cat said. That's pretty offensive, what everything he was saying. But I'm not sure they're polling right, because I don't believe that numbers should be going down, because I don't support Trump. And I think he should be held accountable for everything.
Let me interrupt to say this. Did you support Trump in 16 or 20?
16, not 20.
Okay. Why, after seeing the economy and things that a lot of folks on the right favor from Trump, the no wars, people favored the gas prices, favored the economy, favored the job numbers. Why would you not give him a second chance in 20? What made you vote against him?
Well, mainly because of the vulnerability he gives to the country with all those documents and not keeping his mouth shut. His mouth is the worst enemy of himself.
But the document issue, when you voted against him in 2020, that was not an issue at the time.
It was his mouth during that time. Because if he was a mime, he'd be one of the greatest presidents. But since he's not a mime, it's not going to happen.
I've never heard that before. Wow. So if Trump was a mime, but I have said this, even though I lean left, that I do believe on paper Trump was worthy of a second term. And same reasons I don't like the deliberate divisiveness. I understand you're going to do things from a right-wing standpoint that us liberals are not going to like, but that's your job. But deliberately pissing people off, with the mouth and the tweets and nervous Nancy's and Pocahontas, none of that's necessary to make the country great. So I do agree that the mouth had a hell of a lot to do with it.
And I think once the debates go on, I think his numbers will come down. I really like myself. I support Chris Christie. I like him.
Wow, you're the first person on here I've had on the right. A lot of liberal support. And by the way, Crystal B, appreciate that. June, I did not let that go unseen. Appreciate that. Thank you for your generosity. But Chris Christie, what do you like about Chris Christie? Because most folks are suggesting he is only in the race to attack Trump.
Well, but he's also I always watched him when he was on George Stephanopoulos on Sunday mornings. And a
Yep.
lot of things he says, I support, and it's common sense. He's got a lot of common sense with him, especially when he was responding to all the problems going on and all the stuff Trump was doing. And I
Yeah.
think if he was given a fair chance, maybe when people listen to him, and maybe the other candidates, they're going to grow. But
Yeah.
right
I
now,
got a
the
lot of
media is only
folks
going
in
to
the,
cover Trump at DeSantis right now.
yeah, I got a lot of folks in the, well, they're going to be covering Chris Christie because they're going to be saying some crazy shit, which is how Trump rose to fame, is that nobody thought Trump was going to win, but he was a ratings bonanza on television. Chris Christie is on CNN tonight. Now, the NBA Finals, I want to watch that because Denver's expected to beat Miami, but Chris Christie is going to be doing a town hall on CNN tonight. And for folks who are politically savvy that love politics, that is must-see TV. So your boy, will you tune into that?
I will now since I know about it because I did not know
Yeah.
about it. So I will be tuning into that.
Yeah, he's
But I,
going to do a town hall tonight, so expect a hell of a lot of clips and highlights from that particular town hall because he's the only one that's running that is willing to openly be critical of Trump.
exactly. And I want to go back to what Moo the cat was saying. That tone
You
that he
refer
was
to
saying,
you refer to it as offensive. Give me some of his greatest hits. What did he say that was offensive to you?
well, to me, he's taken a couple of people in the Republican Party and considering everybody being like that in the Republican Party. Myself, I'm very conservative, but you know what? If you want to do what you want to do with your life, that is your business. And that's the way it is. And that's a true Republican, too. A true Republican will let you live the way you want to live.
That no, I gotta push back. I think you're talking about a libertarian. A true Republican wants you to be Christian. A true Republican is not a fan of you being Muslim or Jehovah Witness. So I don't know if I would agree with that part.
Maybe, but the way I look at it, to me, it's like the true Republican wants less government. The government should not be in your business. They're there to
So
support,
if a
like,
woman if a woman is pregnant, would a true government leave her and her body alone?
yes,
That's a
absolutely.
that's Republicans to you?
Yep, that is true.
I don't know. That sounds like a
Why should,
libertarian.
because the way I look at it, why should the government butt into your business between you and your doctor?
I
Because
mean,
we're supposed to be less government. We're
yeah,
supposed to be less government.
I agree with you, but from what I've seen in my lifetime, my 50 years, I've seen the Republican government support the Patriot Act. I've seen them support stop and frisk. Now they've rolled back Roe v. Wade. They're talking about teaching Christianity in schools all the time. I think they're not for small government. They're for specialized government. I don't care how big the government is if you're doing what I want you to do. So I think to me, you sound like you're talking libertarian stuff.
You could be, but like in my state, we have what's called weekday religious education, and children can do that, but it's by choice, not by force.
It's called what
And
again?
weekday Christian education,
What?
weekday religious education, and that's where students can learn about the Bible from public schools, but the parent and the child has to choose to do it. Nothing's ever forced on them. So if they wish
Would
to
you
learn it,
would you
they can.
would, would you also support weekday pride education?
Sure.
Would your party support weekday pride education?
Some will, not all of them.
Not many of them. It kind of reminds me of the Pace Picante sauce commercial. Get a rope. You're not
Yeah,
gonna have a lot of Republicans supporting that shit
but I don't support kids getting altering surgery before they're 18. It,
because
because, well, you know how we are when we're young. We don't know nothing.
right.
As a kid, we don't know nothing. As we get older, we're like, man, we were stupid back then. And that's a pretty big decision. And making that decision before you're 18, it's just like smoking and it's just
I
driving,
I
voting.
I I totally agree that the mind of a child before being 18 is not fully developed. However, you can get a tattoo or piercing before you're 18, and that's obviously body altering. There's a lot of things you can do before you're 18. You can get baptized. I don't know where that might fall into it, but you can certainly do that as well. So I'm I'm torn on it. I do agree with you though. Before you're 18, you should there should be some thought process to it, but I think that should be between the child and their parent, not the child and their local senator.
No, it shouldn't be, but I don't know. It's just kind of, I think it's a way of protecting him. Because if I'd have done some of the stuff I was thinking of before I was 18, oh man, I'm glad I didn't do some of that stupid stuff.
You also realize that in most states in America, where the parent is involved, you can get married before you're 18. Some
Yes, you
states you can
can.
get married you can get married as young as 12. And there's no push to take that law away. There are some states where you can get married pretty damn young if your parents sign it. But you can't
And
have
they
gender
should.
assignment surgery if your parents sign it.
And they should because, like, when that law was produced, the life expectancy was a lot smaller. So people were starting families at such a younger age, but see now everybody's living a lot longer. That should be abolished.
Yeah, and there's no push to do that. So that shows you that it looks a little hypocritical when they're only going after the LGBT community, saying that they're too young to do this, but you're okay with the law remaining where they can get married at the same age.
Exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
fair enough,
And see,
fair
and that's
enough.
the way I think. And if I mean, I have a public office, but it's very small. It's just a township kind of a thing. So I have no decision capabilities of that. But if I was higher up, that's what I would support.
All right, I got one more question before I let you
Sure.
go. Trump is alleging that Biden is trying to use the system to incarcerate his strongest rival. Do you believe what's happening to Trump is being orchestrated by President Biden?
No, I don't think so. He orchestrated that himself. He's
Mm,
done all that to himself, but he just won't admit it. I
yeah.
mean, the facts are facts. We just had to get this. Just have to. A lot of people, his followers, just need to come to grips with it because that's what it is. It's reality.
Yeah. A lot of folks in the comments disagree with you, though, Purple. I got to move it on. It's always a
That's all right.
pleasure.
They can disagree with me, but I like watching you, man. You're good.
Thank you. And I like having you. Good talk, man.
All right, thanks, man.
Absolutely. In the comments, a lot of folks do believe what's happening to Trump is orchestrated by President Biden. I'd love to have somebody discuss that because I have a few questions to ask. I'd like to hear you elaborate on that. As always, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 20,000 likes, 700 plus of you in here. Could be anywhere you want to be, but the fact that you're here with your boy, always a pleasure having you here. Program shall forever in its entirety remain MAGA friendly to the very end. Nevertheless, I don't block, ban, or censor anyone. Liberals are welcome as well. Did that say Valley Girl with that crown? Thank you. Thank you. Love the Valley Girl accent for those who know what I'm talking about. Shout out to it. All right, continuing on. Do you think Trump is right about Biden? I don't think he's presenting any evidence. If you're going to suggest that President Biden is orchestrating this, remember Biden is the dude who cannot speak a sentence without reading the teleprompter. Doesn't know where the hell he's at most of the time. Is in the ongoing stages of dementia. Yet he's leading multiple jurisdictions to go after the president. That requires some explanation. Going back to the box, you ate a dope, says Golden Girl. You ate a dope. Maybe it's a typo, because I don't know what that means. I don't think Biden has anything to do with it. It says Southern Delight. Love that name. All right, let's go to the box. Shay, good afternoon. To the program. Good afternoon,
Hello.
Shay. Welcome back.
Hey, hey.
So, why is Trump support growing? The more cases he gets, the more folks are supporting him. What's going on with that?
Well, I mean, I'm like your previous caller. I just really doubt that. It's not the tea leaves that I'm getting from many Republicans that I know in Texas. Remember, I live in a red state. It's not the tea
Mhm.
leaves that I see. I don't know who's doing the polling, but if I know he's not attracting independents back to him. I don't see that at all. I don't see how he's going to bring moderates back to him. Those that swung to him over Hillary Clinton swung back to Biden. And I think that, I don't see anywhere that he would attract them back. I just don't. There's too much distraction going on. I mean, in the end of the day, tomorrow is going to be a heavy day for America. It's going to be pretty brutal looking. And God forbid there is a massive, violent outbreak with his
You know,
support.
I
I
was
worry
going
about
to
that.
that was originally going to be the title of the program. And by the way, Valley Girl, shout out to you for the subscription. Damn, thank you. The title of the program was going to be, "Do you expect MAGA to behave?" Because in Miami they are cordoning off an area because there is a little bit of underground chatter. They've been, the
Mhm.
feds say they've been listening to the Proud Boys and things like that. There is, and Trump has already called folks to show up and protest. So Trump,
Yep.
to some degree, trying to get a man the benefit of the doubt, but he is egging some of this stuff on. And the same thing in Georgia. Now, Trump has not been indicted in Georgia yet, but the lead prosecutor down there has already asked for resources to be prepared. So, same
Hmm.
thing, they're expecting a potential uprising down there, and they're getting ready for it. So, there is a third indictment coming to Trump. I'm assuming in 4 months he's probably going to be indicted 3 times. So, but
Yeah. Yeah, because he's got
but
January 6th by Jack Smith as well. So,
But that could be four.
yeah.
I'm talking about the find me 11,000 votes is the third
Yeah.
indictment.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, January 6th would be the fourth.
That's right. That's right. And so
Can he survive this?
no, honestly, no. The tea leaves aren't good. And I honestly think we're not going to have Biden and Trump running in 2024, if you want my honest opinion. I think Biden has thrown his hat in because he is the one to defeat Trump. So I think if Trump eventually will have to step down, there's no way he can campaign. And I think that a lot of the mess that's going to come out, the evidence that's going to come out. I mean, MAGA, I just ask you to understand these are his own attorneys that are the
Yeah.
witnesses in this case. These are not Democrats. There's not one Democrat that's testifying against him. And Joe Biden hasn't said a dang thing. I
But wait
mean,
a minute, say you know how the
mhm,
magic works. I don't care what you've been doing politically your entire life. The minute
mhm,
you start speaking negatively or you decide to testify against Trump, a D will appear behind your name or a
okay,
rhino. You
right, right.
cannot maintain your Republican status if you're not friendly to Trump.
You can't yeah, you can well, yeah, you can't maintain your MAGA status. I mean, look what the MAGAs are doing, the Freedom Caucus is doing to Kevin McCarthy right now. They're
Yeah.
literally forbidding, they're trying to take votes to knock down anything. They don't want to vote on anything because, McCarthy made a deal with Biden. So McCarthy is not even taking votes right now on the floor because he knows
Mm.
that there's shenanigans right now. So this is the party that is not for the American people. And I want their voters to wake up and understand this. Their job is to help with you sitting here whining about the economy, but yet you've got a significant portion of your party that wanted to ruin the economy so they could blame it on Biden so they could win the election. I mean, is that right? Is that right in your own
Well,
head?
but is that
Like,
wrong or is that politics? Real quick, I also want to ask you,
it's both.
Oliver DePlace in the comments made an interesting statement
Mhm.
suggesting that Trump cannot even get security clearance. If he was to run and win the White House, is it possible his security clearance could be denied based on what's going
Wow.
on?
Wow. Wow. That's I
I
didn't
didn't
thought about.
think about that.
And then I'm like, they're like, well, we're still going to vote for him if he's in prison. I'm like, you want a head of state, our head of state in prison, like running, like it. We would have this man has disrupted so much of our foundation, which is what MAGA wants him to do. They want him to be the disruptor, right?
Yeah,
But if
but no, that's
you,
I don't want to. That's not totally fair. You got to keep in mind, for 50 years, folks on the right has been wanting a leader that protect the sanctity of life. Trump rolled back Roe v. Wade. You
he
give
did
him credit for that huge accomplishment, at least for folks on the right.
well. Of course I do. Of course I do. Yeah, absolutely. He did.
Six. What about 6 Republican Supreme Court justices? You give him credit for that. He appointed 3 of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him credit for that. He did his job. I mean, and I do think he was groomed to make sure that that is something he would do. I mean, I know many people that wouldn't vote for Hillary because they're conservatives. They didn't like Trump at all. They literally voted for the Supreme Court. I knew so many Republicans that voted for him for the Supreme Court. So yes, he absolutely did that for them. And yay, kudos to you. But bottom line is, what else could he do if he got back in office? Let's imagine what he would do.
The
Just think
border.
about it.
They're gonna say that he would handle the border issue better.
No, the border's down by 70%. I mean, the crossings are down heavily. So Biden is handling that. I mean, once Title 42 went away and you could put back into Title 8, the border crossings are down significantly. So are we going to
You,
give credit to Biden for that or not? I mean,
and I've been hearing that. I've been watching
mhm,
Cuomo and Fox and things like that, and I've noticed even Fox News, who had folks order to show folks coming over, they're not
mhm.
down there talking about it anymore. Because
No,
yeah,
they're
you're
not.
right. Yeah, the
Mhm.
border's gotten better.
Yeah, the border's gotten tremendously better. He got Mexico to help pay for security. He's got the return. You got to apply on the other
Wait
side
a
before
minute.
you come
Wait a minute. Trump promised that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Are you telling me Biden actually made that happen?
in. Biden made that happen. Yes, he did. $1.5 billion from Mexico. Yeah.
Not the guy with dementia.
The guy with a sleepy, demented old man that falls down all the time.
Oh, shit. So in other words, Biden sounds like he kind of getting a few things done.
He's gotten a lot done. And listen, I wish he was a lot younger. I'll give you his age is a problem. He'd be 86 by the end of his term.
Right.
That's a lot. My mom's 83. I mean, she's great, but still, I mean, I do worry about that. But in the end of the day, he obviously knows what he's doing. He's obviously he's a master crafter on how to get policy done. I mean, look at what he did with McCarthy. And McCarthy's not a dumb guy. He got the debt ceiling done. And it will cut our deficit by 1.5 trillion in the next 10 years, that deal. So, I mean,
But you don't, but do
tell
you
me how
want him,
Democrats are bad for the economy. I mean, come on.
but with his age, do you want him to seek a second term? Talking about Biden.
It depends. I don't have any reason. He does. There's no reason beside his age he shouldn't run. He's done a fantastic job. He's been a good leader. He's been the leader we need. Would I like someone younger? Yeah, of course. I think we all would. But
Fair enough. Now, I got
Trump
one other question before I move
77.
it.
Yeah.
Before I move it on. I got one other question I want to ask you out of the comments. Ranch said, "Enjoy starving with these Democrats." So the question I want to ask is, financially, yourself personally, are
Yeah.
you doing better, worse, or about the same financially under Biden as opposed to Trump?
We're doing financially actually better. My husband's been getting some really big raises lately, so it's been nice in
Wow.
that way. Now, do I understand that there have been prices, especially in the last couple of years, that have been pretty hefty? Yeah, absolutely. We've had to adjust. Like, all right, do we need 3 boxes of cereal? Can we buy one this week? I mean, we've adjusted here and there, but in the end of the day, the prices of everything have come back down. There's a lot of stuff now. Hopefully, the housing markets and renting and all of that. I know that needs to come down. The APR needs to come down. I financed a brand new Lexus for 6.3, and I have excellent credit. That's the highest APR I've ever paid on a car. But that sucks. I'll give you that. So we'll just pay it off. But I just talking to me on that set. Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand things are tight, but I also see things are getting much better. And I'm happy to see that. I've noticed my grocery bills. I mean, I remember it was $300 for my groceries one time. I was like, what in the world? What did I get? But they're back down to about 120. So I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, and so I
So
understand
so
things
you
are tough
so
for a
you
lot.
are seeing inflation, but your
Hmm.
wages, your income has went above the inflation,
Yeah.
or it's kind of
Yeah, it's gone above the inflation, and like I said, the inflation's coming down. I mean, we're at what 4.3, so it's
yeah.
it's come down, and yeah, it usually stays around 2 point something, 3 point something. I know under Trump it was 1.7 at the time, But it's always been that way. And remember, it was up as high under Bush W, 5.6 in 2008. So when people say this is the highest inflation in 40 years, it's not true. It's just simply not true. So listen, we've got the right person in office to help level out the economy. Things are coming back. So that's what I see. And I
Well,
know it's been tough. I get it. But
yeah. Well,
it's
we're all hoping we're definitely all hoping you're right that it's coming back, but that shall remain something we will see. All right, Shay.
Mhm.
Good talk. Glad to have you on again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim. Take care, man. Bye,
Yes.
everybody.
All right. Look in the comments, Mr. I cannot pronounce that, but appreciate the dancing air figure there. I see an e-bike going by. All right, looking in the comments, how is global inflation Biden's fault? That's a good question, but at the end of the day, let's just be real. If global inflation went down substantially, you don't think Biden would take credit for it? You don't think Trump would take credit for it? I often believe, whoa, shit. Dots. Appreciate that. I've never seen that before, that Pacific Island. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've never seen that before. All right. When you're president, at least in my humble opinion, maybe you folks have a different opinion of it, but when you're commander in chief, whatever happens under your watch, you're going to get blamed for it, whether good or bad. Because you heard Chris Christie, which I understand a lot of my beloved MAGA have no tolerance for, but he talked about Trump takes credit for all the good and blames somebody else for all the bad. That's not something unique to Trump. Most politicians do not go by the moniker "the buck stops here," which is why it's so much a pleasure to hear a politician that does say that, because most of them don't. They do exactly what Chris Christie is accusing Trump of: take credit for the good and blame the bad on somebody else. All right, going back into the box, Mike Kidder says she is batshit crazy. I don't think Shay was. God, you guys are horrible. All right, let me go back to the box. As always, I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. Program shall forever remain MAGA friendly. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 25,000 likes. Nearly 1,000 of you in here. So it is indeed a pleasure having you here. We'll go straight to Valley Girl. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Valley Girl. Trump support is rising because the devil is high at work. Damn. All right, Valley Girl, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Talking
Oh
about
my
the go
goodness,
ahead.
that lady was delusional.
Really? How so?
We have global inflation because all the Biden administration has been doing is printing money. It's basic economics. That's what
So
you
you
print more
believe?
money than
So you're suggesting that Biden is responsible for inflation on a global scale?
absolutely.
How does
Absolutely.
that work?
I do.
So
Because our
I
money
don't
goes
see.
all over the world.
Yeah, but
People
I don't
use
see
our
how.
dollar all over the world, which is
Keep going. Keep going. We
that's
might
it.
we might have a delay.
I mean, I'm just like the last. Let me turn off my camera. Maybe that'll
Yeah, I
help.
can hear you loud and clear there, Valley Girl. I don't know why it's. I mean, maybe you got a delay. I'm looking in the comments. Yeah, I've never heard someone. You're the first I've heard, Valley Girl, suggest that the president is responsible for inflation all over the world. I've never heard of that.
You know what? I'm going to tell you a little story. Just a little
Sure.
one, not too long. Once upon a time, and this is a very naive idea, but
Okay.
for the longest time, and I've always loved politics. I've always watched news, read, researched. But not too long ago, I realized that this is so stupid. The government does whatever they want, even if it's illegal. All of them. You want to talk about Trump? Every president has done something that he shouldn't have done. But they
But
just
think
weren't
about what you're.
caught.
Wait,
You
wait,
know
wait a minute
why?
though.
Because that's all these people.
Okay. Here's the point I want to ask you. I'll let you continue, but You're saying that every politician has done something wrong. And I don't disagree with you. However, one of the primary reasons we elected Trump is that he was not a typical politician. He would drain the swamp and not act like a Washington insider. Yet you're suggesting that that's exactly what he became once he was elected. He's doing things wrong just like everybody else. Doesn't that go against what he actually told us he was going to do when he got into the presidency?
Well, sure it does. But I think every president does that. He kept a lot of promises that he made during his campaign. You know, and there are some things that he didn't keep, just like any other president. You've got presidents on the campaign trail making promise after promise after promise, especially those ones that have never been in there. Because once you get in there, it might be a whole new different ball game for you, because there's some things that you can't do. You know,
I mean,
I
I
know
don't.
this is called
Go ahead.
the Donald J. Trump deranged syndrome. That's what these liberals have. They want to call us a cult or MAGA or magnet. You know what I think about MAGA is I've never seen such a strong group of people going after something together that we think is the best for us.
Yeah,
You
I don't
know?
disagree with you at all that MAGA is
And
a
they don't like
very
it. The liberals
strong
don't
movement.
like it.
Well, but is it you're
Yes, it
correct.
is.
You're correct from two standpoints. I agree MAGA is a very strong movement, and I do agree that liberals do not like it, but at the end of the day, is it just liberals? I had on a traditional Republican earlier. We talk about Chris Christie's and the Mike Pence's and Mitt Romney's, Mitch McConnell. They're not liberals. So what about all of the folks on the right that are traditional conservatives that also do not like MAGA? Why is that?
Well, okay, so Mike Pence, I know him I don't know him personally, but I know his policies very well because I'm an Indiana resident and he was
Hmm.
my governor. And I didn't care. He's a extreme right wing Republican, conservative. And I feel like if he was elected, which he has no chance, he is not aggressive enough.
Right.
He really isn't. And he wasn't aggressive as a governor either. He's very old school when it comes to conservatism. You know, he wants God back in the schools. You know, he wants all of those old white Republican men want. And I think we're way past that. You know, if it's not Trump, I would support DeSantis. What I think would be an unbeatable team is Trump and DeSantis. I'd
Well,
love to see that after the
let me
primary is
present
over.
I guess I would present a question on what you talked about in regards to
And
Mike
Trump is
Pence.
not going to go to prison.
If you knew being an
All you
Indiana
people in the
resident, hold
comments,
on,
they
wait a minute,
crack me up.
Valley Girl, let's have a conversation. Let me ask you this: if you, as an Indiana
I'm sorry,
resident,
honey.
it's all good. If you, as an Indiana resident, knew all of this stuff about Mike Pence, and like you said, we need to move on from that. I have to ask you this question because President Trump promised to surround himself with the best and brightest. If Mike Pence is the way you're suggesting, why did Trump put him on as VP?
Because I think he wanted the evangelistic vote, and I think he got it with Pence. I did not agree with that pick. And you know,
Okay.
it's like you know, and I understand Trump said he's not a politician, he's not this, he's not that. When you get in there, I think sometimes you got to play that game and be a politician, and I don't think he really understood that. And I don't think any politician understands it until they get in the White House. What they have to do and what they can't do and what they can do. You know, they want to put Trump in prison. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. Do I
So
think that he committed a
do you
crime
believe
as
when
far
you
as like the
talked about,
documents? Listen. I got something to say about them documents and
okay,
what he's being tried for. That's fine. If he did that, that's fine. Then he should be. He should be charged. Do I think it was
should he be
espionage? I
locked
do
up?
not. However, I think
If
that's
he
a little
did it,
far-fetched. Should I?
if he actually did it, you said he should be charged. Should he be locked up for it?
If he gets convicted, of course he should. But that's another thing. No, he's guilty until proven innocent in every liberal's eyes. They've already got him. I mean, the liberals like to play with him that they're the judge, jury, and executioner. You know, he
Yeah,
doesn't get
but
due
let me.
process. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt that he's
You are
innocent
correct.
before
You
proven
you
guilty.
are you are 100% correct. In the eyes of liberals, Trump is guilty until proven innocent. They don't before he has his day in court. But I have to ask you, when Trump was holding rallies and allowing all of his supporters to yell "lock her up," she didn't have a day in court either. Is it safe to say that Trump supporters believe that Hillary Clinton was guilty until proven innocent as well?
Well, I mean, I can't really comment on that because I hate the bitch. I never liked her, couldn't stand her when Bill was in office. So my things are like, I just don't like her. I've watched, I mean, and I don't have any respect for her because of the whole Benghazi fiasco. I'm very military forward, and you know, I consider myself a true patriot. I love this country. I would just like to see some changes, you know, whether it's from Trump or DeSantis. But I really don't believe unless it's arranged that a Democrat's not going
But
to
think
win.
about
I mean, do you know how many people
what you
voted
just said.
for?
Think about what you just said in regards to Hillary Clinton. You dislike her, for lack of a better term. You think that she was corrupt and things. Everything you said about Hillary Clinton, a liberal could say about Trump, up to and including they believe he might have disrespected the military and things
Yep.
like that. So I just want to point out you have your reasons for feeling the way you feel about Hillary Clinton and being okay with people yelling "lock her up." But understand, folks on the left could have those exact same reasons about President Trump and also use those to state why they feel he is guilty until proven innocent. It's almost the same type of scenario.
I tell you, these people in the comments crack me up. Boy, I got them going now.
You know how it works,
Listen,
but
at the end of the day, yeah, and I love it because I mean, you're complete free speech, which is, you know, that's not very often from a liberal that you get somebody that allows free speech from a liberal, you know. So
okay, I'll
they
take that
like to
one on the
stifle
chin.
us, that's for sure.
I'll
And
take that
that's
one on the chin. Go ahead.
yeah, but you're not a typical handsome. You are not a typical liberal. That's why
You're
conservatives
killing
and
me.
liberals alike like you.
I told you I would take one on the
So
chin and you follow up
I
with a
see your
combo.
videos too. You know what? You're the only person I've ever subscribed to on this stupid app. But it's because I tune in every day. I believe you. I believe you when you talk. Um, I don't know. You don't judge anybody that comes on here and wants to talk. You know, so that's why I don't think you're a typical liberal. I mean, I think that what you do of this platform is outstanding. What you do on this platform is outstanding. So I got to go back to work, but I just wanted to get everybody riled up. I'm glad I did.
All right, Valley Girl. Appreciate it. And by the way,
Ah,
thank you. Thank you for the subscription. My door is open anytime. Come on back.
thank,
All right.
thank you, buddy.
Oh,
Have a good day.
you too. All right, moving on. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Flattery will get you every damn where. Now, me and Valley Girl obviously have a difference of opinion politically, but as I always say, First Amendment free speech rights reign supreme in here. It's not about agreeing with the host. Nobody gives a damn if you don't agree with the host. You're entitled to state your opinion. I will always back that up as much as I can, with the exception of the TikTok gods. But we do believe in free speech here. Tap the screen, as I said, get your boy up to 35,000 likes. It's 1,000 plus of you in here. Always a pleasure. Looking in the comments. If somebody told me earlier, I meant to respond, but Valley Girl was presenting a passionate point. Someone said my Trump drain the swamp point is getting old. In other words, my suggestion when folks say that Trump is not doing anything that some other politicians didn't do wrong as well, I often point out that you cannot use "he did it too" when you ran a campaign saying he did it and I won't do it. And that's what Trump's campaign was all about, is that Washington is crooked. Jimmy Pizzini, appreciate that. Thank you. The boxing road. Thank you. Trump ran a campaign on he was going to drain the swamp and basically reduce corruption in Washington. Now that he's been accused of a bunch of shit, people are bringing, well, everybody else does it also. You didn't run on a campaign of doing everything a typical politician does. And, excuse me, and the commentator in the comments is saying, well, you bringing that up is getting to be old. No, it's not. It's still valid. It is still valid. Look, just like, for instance, folks are still bringing up that Hillary Clinton had documents. How old is that? How old is that? And it's still a valid point. Going back to the box, we'll go straight to the soothe. There was a Jimmy. Let me just see who. I don't know what I just tapped there. He didn't drain the swamp. He left. He didn't drain the swamp. He left Biden there. Biden was not a
Well,
politician when Trump was running. Trump made him a politician. The soothe. I can't pronounce that, but good afternoon.
good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I'm
It's the
doing good.
soothsayer.
The soothsayer. All right. I want you to soothe down my audience by telling me, why is Trump's support growing with every criminal charge he faces?
Yes, wonderful question. That is a very beautiful and intelligent question. Do not mind my accent. I am originally from Africa, and I have
What
been
country?
very active. Ghana, West Africa.
Let me
I have
let
been
me
very active.
before you go into your spiel, I want to ask you this with all sincerity because I've always wanted to know. You know, in America, most of
Right,
us came from the slave trade, and I've often asked folks this because I lived overseas, and people would ask me what country I was from, and I would say America. They would go, "No, where are you from?" And because us African Americans, due to slavery, we do not know. You being from Ghana, do I look like, and I'm asking this seriously because I do
right,
want to know more about my heritage other than just from Ancestry.com. Do I
right.
look like a Ghanaian, a citizen in Ghana?
Honestly, I would not personally, from my own knowledge, because I was born and I was raised and I grew up and I went all the way, finished my first degree in Africa, and I'm well versed with African. Looking at you with your height and color does not give you the Ghanaian DNA, if I should say. Your height will give you a Senegalese DNA, because Senegal,
Where did you say? Where did you say?
Senegal.
Senegal, where
Yes,
Akon is from. Okay, all
yes,
right.
Senegal. Your color as well. Your color as well. You have a
Really?
very dark. Yes, you have a very dark complexion. Had it not been for the fact that we have a different weather system over here that is not really hot, you would have been so dark you would turn blue. So, um, so I'm
Okay,
sorry,
don't want to do
but
that.
but considering the color, Senegal they have a very dark color, and we also have Sudanese who are very dark. But the Sudanese, when you look at them, they are very tall, but they are lanky. You are not lanky on the other side. So looking at your nose, you're still going towards Senegal. So, and your head, the shape of your head. So, we know, we from Africa, when we see each other, we sometimes can predict so almost correctly,
Mhm.
or almost
All right,
precisely
well,
where one is from.
this is good. I don't want to get too far off topic, but this is really good information. I will just respond before going back on topic. When you said my height,
Okay.
understand that once we were brought here, we were bred to be big and strong people for laborious purposes. But what were you going to say in regards to President Trump and his support growing?
Wonderful. Support for President Trump will continue to grow, and irrespective of where I'm from, I'm somebody that does a very objective and I'm very careful in doing my analysis.
Do you
Trump,
support Trump? Do you support Trump as a leader?
when he came to become president, when he started vying for the seat of presidency, no, I wasn't. But after he became president, I had to do my analysis in the form of somebody's nature and his function. When you are able to distinguish the difference between nature and function, when you vote for a president, you are expecting him to perform activities on the verge of, or on the verge of the responsibility that you actually entrust into his hands, which is for him to become a president and to manage the country, the economy of the country, and every other factor that controls the system or the country.
Do
When you
you
look
think
at
Trump successfully managed those areas?
Wonderful question. When you look, I've been reading American history for a while. When you consider all the way from the time of the Jimmy Carters, the 80s, coming down to the Nixons and coming down all the way to Bush the Junior, you realize that there has been some confusion in the management of the economy of the country. Now, coming to the Bush messed it up, and then
Wait. I gotta rein you in because I appreciate your answer, but you're giving me long-winded answers. In regards to Trump, do you believe he managed the country good?
he managed the country not just good, but excellently good. Yes,
So you
excellently good.
believe, if irrespective of his personality and all those things, you believe he did an excellent job as president of this country.
Exactly what I'm telling you, both on the international platform or arena and on the local or on the domestic arena. You see, he had a lot of people not liking him because of personal racial reasons, and people disregarded
Wait.
that.
You said he had a bunch of people disliking him because of personal and what other reasons?
Or I would say racial reasons, race,
What
by
were
virtue
they?
of race.
Was that when you say they disliked him because of personal or racial reasons? Was that just a bunch of bullshit, or did they have a legitimate reason not to like him for that stuff?
To me, even though it's legitimate, but welcome to America. Racism has come to stay, just as in Africa. Tribalism is there. It's natural. People will join each other by virtue of species or by virtue of commonalities. When we seem common, we come together. When we
So
seem
you
uncommon,
believe, so you believe he did a good job running the country, but he was indeed racist.
yes, he could be racist, but that is not the responsibility that he's been given to perform as a president. So if you judge him as a president on the verge of racism, then you're getting it all wrong. You must judge him on the
So,
verge of what
but
he
wait a
has
minute. How can
demonstrated.
if you are the group that he is racist towards? Even if the economy is good, you got to understand racism negatively impacts people. If you are that group that he's being racist towards, you
Wonderful.
wouldn't. So let me. I guess I'd ask you from this
I am
standpoint.
black. I am
Yeah,
black just like you are. And
with
I was
you
born and
being.
raised in Africa. Let me tell you something. I am black just like you are, born and raised in Africa before I came to America. He said that Africa is a shithole. What people need to think about is you got to be circumspect and see the reason behind somebody calling your country a name. Is the country a shithole or not? That's what you got to ask yourself a question. Until you find out that Africa is not a shithole, you do not have any tangible, legitimate reason to debunk the fact. Now,
Is Ghana
this is how I
with
say
you
he's right.
being with
This is
you
how I say
being
he's
from
right.
hold on, hang on a second. With you being from Ghana, I've
Right.
never been to Ghana. Is Ghana a shithole?
Ghana is really a shithole. Ghana is really a shithole. Now, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. And we're going to even look at Ghana from the perspective of a major natural resource producer. We are producing our resources in the form of gold, manganese, diamond, cocoa, and all these things. Yet we have educated leaders that we have actually appointed to become leaders and lead a country. Yet they are not able to make a bargain and decide how much we should sell our product. Yet the buyers are deciding how much they should sell. If they're not going to buy, you have your product. You have the monotonous decision on the product that you are selling. You don't allow somebody and the IMF and the rest who are created just to suppress you, to continue suppressing you, even though you
Well,
know the reason why these
all right. Well,
institutions are created.
speaking of I'm moving on, but I want to ask you one last question. Is your country, when you suggest that Ghana is a shithole,
Yeah.
does it have anything to do with the fact that the West took about 300 years of your manpower from your country? Those are all folks that would have been laboring in your country, but they came to this country and they made America great. Would your country have been better had all of that manpower stayed there and focused on your nation?
Wonderful. You see, overpopulation and underpopulation can all play a very serious role depending on how the country runs the population. You can have a country that is overly populated and they will not be able to support the people in the country. Likewise, you can also have a country that is underpopulated and there will not be a labor force for the country to be able to make a higher level of production to be able to support the country. So both things could have happened. Slavery might not have happened, and yet still Africa would have been a shithole because the country is not able to support the population that it's controlling. Okay?
Okay.
So we look at both sides of the coin. Besides, Africans started enslaving each other before the arrival of the white man. So therefore, slavery cannot be solely be a responsibility or be a blame on the white man that came to Africa 400 years ago.
Mm. All right, Soothsayer, you went in a hell of a lot of directions that I didn't expect. You're always welcome back. Definitely a good conversation. I'd love to hear from you again, but I do got to move it on.
For sure.
Appreciate
I
it.
love you too, brother, and I'll
Absolutely.
always be up here to check you out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And as Akon would say, Senegal, appreciate it. Oh, I didn't expect that. I certainly did not expect that from an immigrant from Ghana. That was some interesting conversation. He does believe that Trump was as he said, quote unquote, an excellent commander in chief. And he didn't suggest that Trump was an excellent commander in chief while denying some of the things that Trump is criticized for. He actually agreed that the criticism, racism, shithole country, he agreed all that was legitimate and still said that Trump is an excellent commander in chief. I have never heard a guest speak from that perspective. So, Soothsayer, you're always welcome back to the program. That was certainly a different type of conversation. All right, continuing to move on. Follow the program if you enjoy civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored for your opinion. As I say in every broadcast, you don't have to agree with the host. Nobody gives a damn if you agree with the host. You're entitled to speak. Your speech will not be limited because yours truly does not agree with you. We don't do that here. If you enjoy this, like I said, follow the program. We do this Monday through Friday. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 55,000. There's 1,000 of you folks in here. Appreciate you rolling with me. Holy shit. He was one that slaved his people, says Triple Three JR. Oh my God. Looking in the comments real quick. He was probably kicked out of Africa. How do you get kicked out of Africa? As the very funny Chris Tucker would say, how do you get fired on your day off? How do you get kicked out of? Has that ever happened? Damn, you ain't even good enough to stay in Africa. And he admits it's a shithole. I think people just hate the fact that they are straight up ignorant, says Mark. Wow, you guys are horrible. We're your ancestors. We understand oppression and fear, but we rise. Corey Haygood, I like that. Trump is guilty, a criminal. Ernesto A. All right, going back to the box. Trump is not a criminal yet until he is found guilty by a court of his peers. So understand that. Got to get a man benefit of the doubt. Jamie Pizzini. Good afternoon. That was an interesting call. Jamie, welcome to the program. Good afternoon. Why is Trump support rising despite all of the cases orbiting around him?
I think that's a pretty easy one. I think that if you're going to be the kind of people that support destruction of the government in its current form, and I guess that's a pretty extreme thing to say, but if you want to flip the whole system upside down, then whenever the system attacks your guy, you're going to get a little bit crazier about it. And I'm
But
not
what
surprised
when
by
you
any of
say
that.
flip the system upside down, I'm assuming that they mean hold the system accountable and get rid of excess and waste. When you say destroy the government, that's something different if I'm correct, right?
Well, if the case were to get rid of waste and to drain the swamp, and I know somebody was picking on you for and saying that that was a tired argument, but if that's really what you're doing, then when your guy gets all swampy and appoints all those swampy people, then you're going to have a problem with it. And I mean I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but part of our last conversation we were talking about how many felonies that his appointees committed, and it's the most in history. So the
Mm.
claim that he's was going to change the system is obviously false. Now, you could talk about anything else he may or may not have done, but that in particular has to be false. The facts completely go against the
I
idea.
gotta disagree with you in regards to Trump changing the system. And it's not going to be pro MAGA either, but I do believe Trump will change the system, but not for something that he or his family would like to be remembered as. And I've talked about this before, such as a president should not be able to pardon himself. A felon should not be able to run for president. You shouldn't be able to be the commander in chief while incarcerated. I believe those things will ultimately change. And it will be suggested that Trump is the reason why those things came down. Because if Trump was not president, or once Trump is out of the picture, I think you would get bipartisan support at this point that no felon should be able to run for president, and you absolutely should not be able to be
So
president while
all right, all right.
incarcerated.
I got to stop you right there, though.
Okay.
You're going to give him credit for someone else changing the law because of him?
Yeah.
Like isn't that kind of like crediting the arsonist with
Yeah.
the firefighters
Yeah,
changing
if I credited Dylan Klebold, the guy in Columbine, I believe, who was that took out all of those students, as the reason schools now have locks on it, that's proper credit. It's not good credit, but folks going in schools doing this stuff to children are the reason why all the schools are locked down.
you're
So
referring to blame.
credit,
Okay.
blame, whatever
Okay.
whatever you want to call it.
Oh
Okay,
man,
different
I gotta tell
synonyms.
you, there's I'm gonna hit you with a some anecdotal not anecdotal, but
Before
go
you
ahead, go
do
ahead.
DC said before you do DC in the comments said blame these nuts. So go ahead.
All right, so yeah, I mean, did they done get at you today? All right. So I was out the other day, and I've been walking. I walk dogs during the day, right? So I'm walking this dog, and this guy comes outside, and he is obviously angry, and he starts trying to like approach me, and I think because I was wearing I was wearing this hat, I think perhaps he may have thought that I was an immigrant. I wear a hat to keep the sun off my head because I'm bald like you are, right? So this guy comes out, man. He's just making all kinds of noise, and he said he was going to come after me. And I turn around and I look at this guy, and I'm like, and I guess he realizes that I'm an American, and I'm not just some little clown he's going to come out and scream at like he was telling his wife he was going to. So he changes his tune, but he's obviously mad. And I'm like, why is this guy so mad? I just walked the dog past his house. I didn't leave a mess or any of this other kind of stuff. And then I turned around and walked back up the street past his house again because I'm that kind of guy. And on his trunk, I saw this sticker. And I said, well, what could this guy be mad at? And it says, let's go, Brandon. And the only thing I could think is because there was an indictment released, he was really angry watching TV and figured he couldn't control anything else. So he's going to come outside and yell at me. So this is to your point. What your question is I believe the support is galvanizing around him because these people are angry and they don't have any other place to put it. So they're going with
Mm.
their guy, and I think that DeSantis. I don't think that Trump is necessarily gaining as much because of what he's doing. I think DeSantis is failing at galvanizing that base. And if there's anything that I think Trump did good, which is not a very long list, is galvanize his support. He's very good at getting people to believe in him. And that's very powerful when you're a politician.
Yeah,
Flat
yeah.
out is. So, like, that's the one thing I would actually give him credit for. There's a lot of other stuff that people say, and even liberals, and even yourself has said that I can't believe people credit Trump for this stuff.
Well,
But
I
he's
credit Trump. I credit Trump for rolling back Roe v. Wade. That's a huge accomplishment. That would be like us liberals getting gun legislation. That
yeah,
is huge.
yeah.
So I
If
can't
you're
dis. Go ahead.
if you're against women having rights, yes, that's an accomplishment. I don't
I
see
mean,
that as
I
an
get it. I
accomplishment.
get your point, but they would look at us and say, if you're against a citizen being able to defend themselves, but we want Second Amendment we want some type of legislation, common sense gun laws and things like that. And they would say the same thing. Well, if you're against a citizen having the right to defend himself, so that you could present that argument from both
I mean, I
sides.
guess
But
you could, but most citizens are for a women's choice, even though that's not what's happening right now. And most citizens are for common sense gun legislation, even though those people aren't the ones barking. If you look at the polls, you look at the statistics. There's something like 90% of Americans right now support a violent background check before someone buys a gun. It's
yeah.
not. These things are popular and they're not being done by the government, which again plays into his base because that makes them anti-government. It's so funny how this is like a self-perpetuating hate of the government, even though you want to put your guy in the government. Like it's baffling to me at times the mental gymnastics you have to go to support the law and order party guy as he criminally, I mean, incriminates himself on live television on CNN, which you're now watching. Then you said you would never watch. Like the layers are very very deep for me. And it's funny because I was talking to my mom this morning. She's an a serious advocate for a guy like Tucker Carlson. She loves Tucker. She quit watching Fox when they fired him. My mom
Wow.
loves Donald Trump. That's her boy. You know what I mean? But even she, as I talked to her this morning, is like, you know what I started doing, baby? I'm like, what, mom? She's like, I started turning the TV off because it was just making me mad. And I'm like, Mom, that's what it's there for. It is by design there to fire you up or make you afraid, to push you into action, into voting or supporting these people. And that's not even just on the right. I'm not going to blame the right for that
No,
because
we
the
do
right
it
is
too.
good at it. Yeah, they're
Certainly
good
with
at it.
racism. Yeah, with racism, the left also.
Sure,
If it,
sure.
yeah,
And look at PETA. How many times do I got to look at a picture of a dog smashed down in a cage, half dead, for you to make me think that it's bad? I know it's
yeah.
bad, you know what I mean? But the reality is, and like I was telling her, and we're on opposite sides of the aisle, you know what I mean? And I'm like, Mom, the reality is if you walk out your front door and you walk around to your neighbor, no matter whether he's a righty or a lefty, and you wave at him and tell him good morning, 90 out of 100 people are going to wave back and tell you good morning, and that's going to
Well,
be
let's
the
okay. So
beginning and the end of that.
let's turn off the TV and take that out of the conversation in regards to just simply living our lives, the economy, and things like that. Was Trump, in your opinion, doing a good job?
Oh hell no! It's not even close. The From a personal perspective, I know a lot of people like to talk about themselves, but I was making around 35K a year in the Trump years. I had to restart a business because local businesses were dying at a crazy rate during that time, and I was one of them. My last two
Was
years,
that due to the pandemic? You said local
no,
businesses
no.
were.
The pandemic was the final nail in the coffin, but I already went from 50K under under Obama down to like 35K under Trump, and
What I'm curious, if you don't mind, what business are you in?
oh, at that time, I'm in a new business now. I'm in animal care. But I'm in service. But back then I was in sales. So like retails, I would buy things and resell them was what I was doing at the time, which used to be tremendous money. And then when what happens when you deregulate companies along the way, it cuts out the middlemen, like somebody like who I was, and then all of a sudden a person can go right around me and buy things from China instead of having to let me import them
But
and
you
then
don't
sell them.
blame that on Trump or Biden, do you? That's just your industry took a hit.
No, no, but that's just the thing is, and this is another point I wanted to make is that when you're talking about the Republicans want smaller government, what they really want is smaller regulation for businesses, and then they want to regulate people
Yeah.
more. So and as a person that's in business, when I'm out there making my money, and then all of a sudden you remove the law that just stopped every random person from buying things from overseas and then selling them here. You eliminated my position is really what happened. So that it waned its way down, and the pandemic rages out of control. Now people have no money, and I was forced to change. So then I changed, and oh God, willing, it's for the better. So I switched from sales to service, from retail to service, and I started making a lot more money. So now I'm pushing the 55K, 60K. I'm still an average person, but I'm doing so much better, including adjusting for inflation, than I was under the last president. So if that's the gauge, that I don't. By the way, I don't believe this is true. But if that's the gauge we're going by, then I'm way better off under Biden. Now, as far as like how living better in general, is our country better? under Biden or Trump? No, I don't think it was better under either one of them. I think it was probably better under Obama the last time around. Maybe even under Bush, as much flack as he took for starting a BS war and stuff like that, we were pretty united under Bush, at least for the first couple of years.
Yeah. Well, because
So
we
I'm
were at
saying
war. Yeah,
I think I'm
because
a moderate.
yeah, we're gonna be more united because when Bush got on the rubble of the World Trade Center and said, "I hear you, these people hear you, and those who knock down the buildings will hear all of us." So that is a hell of a statement, and it made us come together because we all felt we were victimized on September 11th. So Bush
But
got the benefit of a war to unite the country. So, and he didn't do right by it, but certainly we were united under Bush because even folks in the military, my veterans out there will tell you the way veterans are viewed in this country increased substantially after 9/11. Suddenly, we all love the military, but before
yeah.
9/11, they weren't getting love like that. You understand, after the Vietnam War, a lot of veterans were being spat on and hated. So,
Yeah, my dad
September
was a
11th,
Vietnam vet, man. I know, but at the same time, I'm going to go in. Let's go in between for a second. So let's look at the Ronald Reagan years and the George Bush years. I grew up during that period of time, man. Like I was born in the '70s. Those years, we genuinely disagreed with each other, but had respect for each other as Americans. I feel like there was a lot of crazy shit going on between the extremists, as there probably always will be. But this divide really began I think probably in the late George Bush years, maybe even mid, somewhere around there, and then it went crazy when Obama got elected because all the racists couldn't
I'll
handle a
tell
black
you
man as
why.
president.
I do got to move it on, but I'll tell
That's
you
okay.
why the divide has gotten stronger. Simply put, more people now have a say so at the table. The further back you go, the fewer people opinion mattered. You know, if you go back, you start talking. I mean, shit, the Civil Rights Act only got passed in '64. You didn't have any gay people having a right to speak. You know, African Americans were just getting used to their right to speak. As time is going on, all of these groups now are actually allowed to speak and have an opinion that matters. It didn't matter back in the Reagan days and before. So that's why it's getting more divisive because now you have to answer to all these damn people that you didn't used to have to answer to. But
Well,
I
you
got
know
to
what?
move it
You're
on.
right about that because when I was a kid, I remember when gay people were getting lynched. You know, like
Mm.
and now you even hear someone saying something that's to that effect, and we're all going to jump on them. So yeah, I mean things have changed a fair bit, and I guess the people that are that are into all that hate and all that stuff, they're going to be real loud right now because they're we're trying to silence them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a natural reaction, whether it's good or
That
bad.
will always happen if you got to share your place at the table. But Jemmy,
Hey, you
appreciate you
take it
coming
easy,
in.
man. Always
Absolutely.
a pleasure.
And
You too. And I will say that before we go back to the box. By the way, get your boy up to 70,000 likes. Let your thumbs not be lazy. Hell, if we ever got to 100,000, I'd appreciate it. But get your boy up. Let your thumbs not be lazy. Tap the screen. Helps out the algorithm. The program is, always will remain MAGA friendly. Liberals are welcome as well. Now, what I was telling my last guest, and I understand a lot of my beloved MAGA may disagree with this, and you're entitled to do so. But I've said before, I believe it is far more difficult to be a successful liberal or Democratic politician than it is to be a conservative or Republican. The reason I believe it is more difficult to be on the left as a politician is what I was talking to my last caller about. You have to adhere to the wants and needs of all of these damn groups. If you're a liberal, you got to pay attention to LGBT issues. You got to listen to the African American community, the Hispanics, the rights of women and feminists. All of these things matter. Muslims, all of these folks want you to fight for their interests if you are a liberal. The folks on the right don't give a damn about all that. It's going to be a Christian, straight country. And for the most part, it makes it much easier for a Republican politician because they're not adhering to all of those other issues. I mean, it is what it is. I know some of you folks may not agree with that, but the conservative side of the aisle, for the most part, caters to straight, white, Christian folks. Now, they do have other members in their party. I'm not going to ignore that. I mean, you got the Tim Scotts and things like that, but it is what it is. You're not catering to the LGBT community if you're conservative. You're not really catering to the African American community if you're a conservative. You'll tell folks, I've made the economy better in your community. I've made jobs better in your community. But I was really doing that for America and you benefited too. Whereas the liberals have to come to our communities and talk about racism and police brutality and all this shit that the conservatives don't have to worry about. So it is more difficult, in my humble opinion, to be a liberal politician. Clearly, a hell of a lot of you folks disagree, and you're entitled to do so. Looking in the comments, is that good or bad? Come on, man. It's difficult as hell if you are a liberal politician. I would rather be in a position where all I do is have to cater to one particular group. It's a lot easier for me to do because the more groups you got to cater to, the more fights you got to put out. Why the hell are you over there dealing with the Muslims when we don't told you we want this as Christians? Why are you over there dealing with African Americans when us Hispanics want this? If you're a conservative, you're not dealing with all of that. You're just not having to go through all that drama. That's why I believe it's easier. Going to the comment section, or better yet, the box, tap the screen, get your boy up to 85,000. You guys appreciate the love you guys are showing your boy. I do appreciate that. Nevertheless, we are going to go back to the box. I see Bob Payner has been holding on. Do appreciate that. We have this problem because Trump told his supporters that Biden supporters are the problem. Wow. Crystal, thank you. Thank you for that, June. Crystal, appreciate that. My last guest doesn't seem to be coming up. And you must be too, says Victory Wood. I must be what? Feel free to elaborate in the comments. While we're waiting to see if my next guest comes up. It's ignorant to think Democrats aren't majority white, straight people too. I didn't say that Democrats did not. Most of the damn country is white, straight, and Christian. But the Democratic Party is often known as the Big Tent Party. It's not that if you go to a Republican gathering, they won't let you in. It's just that the mindset or the policies of the Republican Party does not seem to resonate with all of these groups. That is something internal to the Republican Party that they need to figure that out. You can only blame the media or the Democrats giving people free shit. These are comments you often hear from folks on the right. They only go Democrat because the media tells them they give free shit. Well, then figure the system out and get around that. You can't keep blaming the media for generation after generation after generation. It's been happening, if you're correct, for long enough that you should have a solution for it right now. There's plenty of money in the Republican Party. They got media outlets. Why the hell is the liberal media resonating with all these folks and right-wing media is not? That's something that the folks on the right side of the aisle need to figure out. Looking in the comments. Never let your children be alone in churches, especially with priests. They are the danger, says Doing Great. Now, folks on the right would suggest that leaving your children alone with a member of the LGBT community is a danger. As of now, your humble correspondent, I don't know of a significant issue of incidents between children in the LGBT community. I believe a lot of the actions the right is taking, such as restrooms and things like that, is done from a more proactive stance. They believe they are preventing children in the future from being harmed because there are no children in the past that are being harmed by the LGBT. So I don't know where it's coming from. But in regard to the churches, there is a long-standing history of churches violating the innocence of children. Been happening since we all weren't even alive. Going back to the box. I don't know what happened with my last guest, Mark Anthony. Good afternoon. There we go. For some reason my voice is getting hoarse, but we'll keep it moving. Mark Anthony. Once again, another guest that doesn't see. There we go. Talking about President Trump, Mark. The more cases that seem to come after this guy, the stronger his support becomes. Why is that? Good afternoon.
Hi. Well, I'm not sure. People seem to dig in their heels. I know the Grand Wizard excuse me, the governor of Florida is trying to emulate him. So,
Wait a minute.
um,
Did you have a Freudian slip of Ron DeSantis being the Grand Wizard? Did I hear that correctly?
no, I was more copying what I heard on the Tonys, but that was epic. That was an epic line that she
Somebody,
said.
I didn't watch the Tonys last night. Somebody said that. Who said that?
Yeah, I don't know her name. What one actress? She's from
It'll be easy
Plantation,
to Google.
Florida.
It'll be
Yeah,
easy to Google. Wow.
yeah,
Holy
and
shit.
she got a huge applause from the audience too, by the way. But yeah, I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. But yeah, I have to say that a lot of them are just digging in their heels, and there was a lot of thinking that because Donald Trump was a bully, he was a strong leader when it was actually the opposite. You know, we were taught as kids that bullies are just very weak people who have to project strength. And you saw that with him wanting to sue SNL every time they made fun of him. SNL makes fun of every
Yeah.
president, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it actually made us a lot safer, a lot less not safer, excuse me, because he cozied up to other dictators and alienated the countries that actually, help protect us because
Yeah,
we
what,
protect
what about
them.
the notion? What about the notion that President Biden, by way of his son Hunter, has cozied up to the Ukraine in the same manner?
Right. He was doing his job. What President Obama asked him to do. Um,
Then where does Hunter come into this? Hunter doesn't have the experience to be commanding the salary he was getting. Hunter Biden, you don't see any issues with that, or have you been following that?
well, I mean, I do see an issue, but that is like nepotism. I
Yeah.
mean, he was not involved with government. He was just on a board of directors for a company in Ukraine. But I mean, it's not like he called up Ukraine and asked them to do him a favor and wanted them to
Well, I'm going to interrupt to say this. There is
go ahead.
enough on the Bidens that they found it to be worthy of at least investigating. So I don't want to exonerate them until we have the investigation continue. I won't convict them either. But there is enough there that the feds under Biden himself believe is worthy of investigation. So the
Sure.
jury on Hunter Biden is still out.
Sure, I agree. And a lot of the people problems are their own. Like Trump's problems right now are his own doing. I mean, and if it's discovered that the Biden conspiracy has merit, then I don't mind an investigation, and I'm not going to defend him through every single thing. I will say that I give Biden a lot of credit, even though a lot of people miss the excitement of Trump. I think that's why I think a lot of his poll numbers are still strong. A lot of them miss that drama, and they look at almost like the presidency as a sporting event. But I'd
Mm.
rather have a boring president who's an empathetic man who's had a history, of tragedy in his life. And, I think a lot of people miss that about Joe Biden. He, lost his wife and his kid, and he had to commute to work like a lot of us. And he made sure he was home
Yeah,
for his
but
two
I
boys.
get your point about we'd rather politics go back to being boring and that Trump is a showman. But they also favor some of his actual accomplishments, as I bring up all the time. Rolling back Roe v. Wade, we didn't have wars going on. They favored the economy under Trump. It wasn't just the like you say the antics and the name calling and stuff. There are a few accomplishments, and I lean left, but I can see how folks on the right. I mean, certainly with Roe v. Wade, that's a huge accomplishment. Six Supreme Court justices, that's a huge accomplishment that no other Republican candidate in our lifetime could deliver. I mean, those six Supreme Court judges are going to be there probably until I'm damn near dead. That's huge.
Yeah, that is true. Although you really have to credit Mitch McConnell with a lot of that. He
Yeah.
blocked Obama's last pick, and then he quickly ushered in a couple of picks for Trump, even as people were voting. I think Amy Coney Barrett was in late October, mid October, she was appointed to the Supreme Court. So, yeah, you do have to credit Mitch McConnell with doing that and having a
I agree
Republican
with that. Which, and
Senate.
I totally agree that. And by the way, if Mitch McConnell hadn't have done that, Mary Garland would be a Supreme Court justice as opposed to going after President Trump. So for folks who favor that, understand he is now going after
Yeah.
President Trump when he would have had a comfortable job at Supreme Court. So that's not exactly a good thing. But at
May
the
I
end of the
bring up
day,
one? Oh,
sure,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, sir.
No, no,
Uh,
go ahead. What you
no,
got?
I don't want to take too much time of your show. I know you have a lot of people waiting, but I wanted to bring up one last thing
Sure.
about Joe Biden because I believe voting matters, and this is Pride Month, and I happen to be a member of the LGBTQ community, and I've seen my community attacked like I haven't seen in like 10 years or so, and to have a president stand up and have the pride flag at the White House and say that a lot of these laws are wrong and they're based in nonsense. It means a lot. So I just want to say that voting does matter, even
Yeah.
if you think he's
Now,
boring
let
old
me
man.
ask you this. I want to before I let you go, I wanted to ask you this because I've seen this around. There are people who have meetings, gays for Trumps, transgender for Trump. Do you believe members of the LGBT community that support Trump? Do you believe they're voting against their own best interests?
Um, Absolutely, but we're not like a cookie. We're not like a cookie cutter people. That's like saying African Americans or Asians are all the same. They're not. We're
Right.
we're not
Right.
we're not all the same people, and sometimes people vote against their best interest. But I will say to those people who the LGBTQ for Trump that they won't let you be part of their club. Just so you know that. You can
What do you
simper
mean?
them all you want. They won't let you be part of their club. You'll still be a second class citizen to them, even if you help them get elected. You know, um,
No.
they'll still make laws against you, even though you help them. So
Mm.
I just wanted to give them that warning.
All right. Fair enough. Come on back anytime.
Thank you.
Appreciate. It's our first time talking.
No, we've talked a few times, sir.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I speak to a lot of people, but I do appreciate you coming in.
Thank
All
you.
right. Absolutely. All right. Looking in the why do you have to be part of a club, says Wendy. Well, when he suggested club, in other words, if I help you get elected, you should care or give a damn about my issues. What he is suggesting is even if you help the Republican Party get elected, the laws that they might act or enact, the legislation that might come down the pipe will be against you. That's what he's talking about, being a part of a club. But maybe I'm getting it wrong. I asked a couple questions. One of them I had a poll earlier, and that was, is President Biden responsible for all the court cases orbiting around Trump? In other words, is Biden using the court system, as Trump would suggest, to incarcerate his closest rival? Trump suggested that it is Biden that's coming after him. I asked that in a poll. 41.8% of you said yeah. Said that Trump is going through all of this at the hands of Biden. 58% of you, definitely more, said no, it's not Biden. Yours truly, I don't believe it's Biden either. Because there's a hell of a lot of Republicans that have voted against Trump. Even when it came to the election, the suggestion that the election was not held properly. A lot of those cases, courts that did not listen to Trump's argument, were ran by Republican judges. Some of them he personally appointed, so it's not just Biden. The other issue I asked, will Trump survive the feds? In other words, there is a hell of a lot of cases orbiting around Trump. And keep in mind, let me say something before I go back to the box. Tap the screen, get your boy up to 3 digits, get your boy up to 100,000 likes. You guys have gotten me pretty damn close. I appreciate that. Will Trump survive the feds? Here's a problem. It's very similar to how folks reference terrorism. You have to be right if you're securing the nation 100% of the time. The terrorists only have to be right once to get their strike through. So every time they try to strike, All they need to do is hit you once and they're good. You need to block all of those off. That's the argument or the stance. Appreciate that hat. The truth, I can't see the name, but appreciate that TikTok cap. Trump is under that same predicament where he is dealing with dozens of counts of fraud. Now, this case that just came by way of Jack Smith, 30 something counts, I believe it is, but Bragg had another bunch of counts up there. There's going to be some stuff coming out of Georgia. He'll be indicted on that between July and August for certain. And then, of course, there is the January 6th case. All of these different indictments, all of these different charges, each one of them carries months, if not years, in prison for a 76-year-old man. So similar to the terrorist comparison I made, where the terrorists only have to be right once, all the feds do is have to get one guilty verdict on what's amounting to probably 50 charges or more, because all of this stuff carries jail time to it. Most of it is felonious. Most of it carries months, if not years, in prison. All they need is one guilty verdict. They don't need 37 counts in the Jack Smith case for him to be found guilty. Just need one. Just one. And then Bragg, just one. And then what's happening in Georgia, just one of those counts. Because each count carries years in prison. So they just need one guilty verdict. Trump has a huge uphill battle. I only wanted to point that out because I asked the question, will Trump survive the feds? Feds have a 96% conviction rate. And they got, just in the Jack Smith case alone, you get 30-something shots at the target. And you are a shooter that has a 96% successful rate in putting the bullseye. And you get 30 shots. You think that that shooter is not going to hit one of those with a 96? That is what Trump is facing. And that's just in that one case. That's just Jack Smith. That's not Bragg. That's not Merrick Garland. That's not Letitia Brown. That's not what's happening in Georgia. That's why I asked you, will Trump survive the feds? I'm not here to argue whether I want the guy to go to jail or not. I'm just simply saying if it was my mother, brother, child, or whatever, I would be expecting them to go down. Just from a statistical standpoint. That's a hell of a lot. That is probably the worst odds. I used to bet at the horse race. That's like putting a poodle out there on the starting line against all the other horses. That poodle ain't going to win. The odds against Trump surviving all of that shit has got to be it's got to be in the single digits. It's got to be in the single digits. Now, I'm giving Trump a little bit of credit because he is Trump. He is the Teflon Don. But anybody else, and you guys have to agree with me, if this was your mom, your child, your son, your neighbor, your cousin, in the same predicament as Trump, you'd be expecting them to serve some time. You'd probably be like, you ain't going to get off with all of that shit. That's a lot. That is a lot that man is dealing with. Going back to the box, nothing but a banana Republican that's going to fail. A banana republic, rather. Keith Zeman, I'd like to know what you mean by a banana republic. Let's keep it going. We'll continue on. Lewis Clyde been holding on there. Appreciate that. Trump. I'm about to say will he survive the feds, but the actual question is Trump's poll numbers are growing with every indictment, with every case. Why is that? Good afternoon, Lewis.
Yes, I'll tell you exactly. Hey, how you doing there, handsome?
Good. Appreciate you holding. Go.
It's this simple. They're only asking MAGA people. They're only asking Republicans. That's who they're talking to. How many times have you been polled, Hampson?
Yeah, that's a good point. But even
I
even
mean,
let's go from that standpoint where they're only asking Republicans. Republicans suggest that they are the party of law and order. Why is his support growing with Republicans with the more cases he's facing?
that is $1 million question. The
Yeah,
Republican
because it
Party,
is. I mean,
I hear all over TikTok, and I'm sure you hear the same thing. MAGA is the new Confederacy.
I don't know if I've heard that before.
You never
What?
heard that?
MAGA is the new Confederacy. No, I've not heard that.
Absolutely. And that's what everybody's saying. That's the word that's going around, especially amongst us liberals. That's how we're looking at it.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people were suggesting that Because the Confederacy was for breaking the country apart. They obviously were for slavery, and I mean, they were for a host of. They were oppressive. They were pro-Christian. But why do you think folks would suggest that MAGA has similarities to the Confederacy?
Those same people that were lynching people back in the day went to church on Sunday. They lynch them on Saturday and go to church on Sunday. So
Hmm.
that Christian thing,
Yeah.
this country, contrary to popular belief, is actually becoming less of a Christian nation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, pastors
That
and
was
priests
predictable.
and ministers are actually doing it to themselves. They're doing it to themselves.
How so?
Riding around in jets, living in multi-million-dollar homes. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus
but
wore sandals.
listen. Yeah, but I come from the south side of Chicago. I can tell you most preachers on the south side of Chicago, with the exception of the really big ones, aren't living large like that.
I think Clef Little Dollar is from Chicago, ain't he?
Well, yeah, somebody huge like that, but Chicago's got to have thousands. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Reverend Clay Evans. For anybody know over on 40, so he was a big preacher. There's a few of them like that, but you know, probably 90% of the pastors in Chicago don't have those. They have little liquor stores that's been converted into a church. That's what the average church is like. It's not these big ass complexes like that.
Yeah, but next time you ride by one of those little churches, look at the nicest car that's out in front of that church, and I guarantee I can tell you who it belonged to.
You win that argument. You do win that. They're not living large, but they trying to.
They're still putting on the front. Just like, let
Yeah.
me tell you something. My brother-in-law, and I'm gonna give you a perfect example of my brother-in-law. He spent most of his young lifehood uh, living like a gangster. He was a thug on the streets, selling drugs, doing everything he could do. Now he lives in a house that costs about 40 something $1,000. He has his own business now. He has a large janitorial service and does really well. He lives in a house that's $40,000, but he has 3 Escalades in front of his house,
Why? Why? For a
and
forty
every
thousand
one of them
dollar
costs
crib.
over. He just like living in the hood. You know what I'm saying? He just like staying in the hood. Just because they're in the hood, that's only because that's where they feel the most comfortable at. It doesn't mean they not living large. You know what I'm saying? Him and his wife
Yeah,
still
that's
go to
true.
Cancun 3, 4 times a year. You know, and they still doing all that stuff. But he lives. I mean, his cars cost 3 times what his house is worth.
Yeah,
But
that's nasty.
you go inside that little shack that he lives in. Man, it probably looks like Trump's house. You know what I'm saying? Gold fixtures.
That's called living ghetto fabulous. I get what you're saying.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
think I
I
think
don't.
many
I
of
don't think.
us. Go ahead.
I think the day that Trump walked into office and came down that escalator, the Republican Party stopped being the party of the small part, a small government. They stopped being the conservative party. They have lost all of that. I asked when I talk to conservatives now. I said, what policies that the conservative government right now, just the recent ones that just got into the House, what have they put forward?
Well, right now, I see what you're saying. I'm trying to think of a decent way to answer that. I don't, I can't really think of anything that the Republican Party under McCarthy because they don't have a strong majority, so it's not going to be as easy for them.
But I still think they should be putting stuff up. But only stuff they're
I
putting
don't know
is
about.
whether to impeach Biden or whether to um, cut back laws on the LGBTQ or to restrict abortion rights. You know, and
But they
it's just that
favor
kind of
all of
stuff.
that.
Nothing to
But they
help us all.
Yeah, but you say nothing to help us all. But folks who vote right favors the limitations on abortion, for instance. They believe you're saving the lives of babies. They favor that. Same thing with the LGBT.
Yeah, I think you have a. you think about it like this. Most there are a lot of Republicans too that don't care nothing about the abortion rights. I mean, they're for abortions also. I mean, they're for choice, and it's just the Christian conservatives that actually is onto that.
Yeah.
That
Well, but that is a large voting bloc. When you talk about the evangelicals, that's a voting bloc that the conservative base has to pay attention to, just like African Americans, for instance. Even though we're a smaller percentage of the country, for the Democratic Party, we are a large voting bloc that they have to pay attention to.
it's like this though. It's like this to me, and I guess I'm just gonna try to say it. I'm not for abortions, but I'm for a woman's right to choose.
Hmm. Yeah,
You know,
I'm the
and
same
that's
way.
that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I lean left, and I'm certainly pro-choice, and I'm pro-choice not only for a woman's right to choose, but I don't believe in draconian punishments. And there are already politicians on the right proposing the death penalty for
Wow.
women having an abortion. I mean, I don't know what's ultimately going to come down the pipe. I don't want to suggest that the far right policies are going to be the norm. I'm not saying that, but we are going to move further to the right in regards to women and their freedoms. I mean, there are going to be some states that are going to start punishing women that have abortions. So there is nothing good for women coming out of rolling back Roe v. Wade. So there are things good coming for embryos and fetuses, yeah, but for women, there's no good outcome to this. It's going to
No.
get worse for women in one way or another.
Well, it is if you're a 60-year-old redneck. It's definitely something good going to come out. Because you can't have babies no more. Or if you're a gray-headed old man, you know what I'm saying? You're for it. Well, it's like this here. Is if you if I lost my train of thought on this one, but I'm telling you now that that's going to come back to haunt them. Trump said it himself that
Yeah.
actually turning back Roe versus Wade is actually going to be the death of the Republican Party when it came to it, and it did. I mean, that's why they didn't have their red wave. I mean, they didn't. They didn't. I mean,
I don't know about that. I think they did. Well, yeah, I do agree that was a huge part of it. I think Trump might have been part of them not having a red wave as well. I got one other question I want to ask before I move on, though. In the comments, Dave said Democrats own you blacks and minorities. Do you feel like we are owned by the Democratic Party?
I one thing they fail to realize that most of the Democratic Party is white.
That is true.
I
That
should
is
say
true.
YT. I should say YT. I'm sorry. For educational purpose only, TikTok. Yeah, but my thing is definitely most of the Democratic Party is white.
Yeah.
Let's just be for real, man. I mean, so I don't know why everybody thinks that all black people. I'm telling you something. I got a lot of homeboys that I don't even talk to no more. Now, I respect anybody who votes for who they want to vote for, but I think if you're black and you voted for Trump the second time, you don't have my. Even if you're white or black, and you voted for Trump the second term, you don't have my best interests at heart.
Mm.
Because
Elaborate. What makes you say that?
right in the heat of Trump's early part of his administration, black people were being killed every week, being abused by police officers. He never did try to console our community.
Yeah.
Not once. I mean, the
Okay.
guy didn't even announce for Juneteenth. You know what I'm saying? The start of Juneteenth pretty got kicked off right during Trump's. We start celebrating Juneteenth right around his inauguration. You know, and he's still it. You know, he didn't go and lay a wreath on the African American. You know, he didn't do anything.
Well, in the comments, Terry Schiff says black people are still getting killed under Biden too. In other words,
No,
Biden
not
ain't
not
made any
not as
better.
not as often. And when they do, he does speak out about it.
Yeah. And I will say this. If you look at the amount of Black Lives Matter rallies, riots, protests, or whatever you want to call it, they were significantly higher under President Trump. So it's clear that even Black Lives Matter and a lot of African Americans do not have as much to protest under Biden for some reason. So, yeah, your argument that it doesn't seem to be happening as much, if you judge what's going on in the world of protesting, it does seem to be right. So, but I got to move it on. Appreciate you
Let me say
coming
this
in,
to you,
Lewis.
Tim. Tim,
Sure, go ahead.
we're the old peaceful black kumbaya crowd. These young people ain't playing that shit. So when they feel unjust, they are gonna burn it down. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Mm.
These and
That's
it's not just the black kids, it's the YT kids are just as angry or
yeah,
just
but
as upset.
they're burning down stuff that of people that have nothing to do with their causes. The average mom and pop business has nothing to do with why you got your ass kicked by police. That's not a good thing to do. You're
let me
making
let
it
me
so
say this
that
to you.
the
When they
businesses
when
in
they
your
had the riots,
community.
let me give you an example. I'm gonna skip in a hop from Baltimore. When they had
Okay.
the riots in Baltimore and they burnt down that Gap and that Wendy's, that was legitimately done. I'm gonna tell you why it was legitimately done. Number one, that Wendy's owner would not hire anybody black in a black community. That Gap. When the last time you seen a brother wearing a pair of Gap jeans?
You can't burn down the Gap because they ain't. I don't know about
But
that
they
one,
were,
man.
but they wasn't but they not patronizing that stuff, and they just wanted it out of their neighborhood.
That ain't the way you do it. You can't
I know,
say
I
because
know,
you costing
but
people jobs, man. You costing people jobs. Listen,
I know,
I'll
but
tell
but
you this
but
way.
but this is the
Let's
thing though. But they weren't hiring any people in their
But
community,
but
and that's
but
why they
but
were
it's
upset.
always going to be. That's first of all. I understand what you're saying about them discriminating, but that's still not the way to do it. Because I'll tell you this. Let's say that Wendy's that had a racist owner. There were Coca-Cola trucks delivering pop to that Wendy's that were driven by black people. The garbage for that facility was taken away by black garbage men. You're hurting other jobs by doing that. I mean,
And
so
if you burn
you're
it, and if
hurting
you burn it
African
down,
Americans by doing that.
if you burning down shit that shouldn't be there or they don't want there, you're creating jobs too at the same time because they're gonna put something else in there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a catch-22 on it.
I
And Tim,
can't
I'm not.
believe you defending burning somebody's business
No, I'm
down.
not. I'm a business owner, and I'd be pissed off if they burnt down my shit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, I'm not for that at all. I'm just saying that's what's happening. That's their
Well,
mindset.
I hate to step on the other side of the aisle, but based on what you're saying, they should burn down all the HBCUs, burn down BET. You can't do that. You can't.
Now, I'm
You
not
can't.
saying they should do any of it. I'm just saying that sometimes people just get so fed up for being unjust, that they kind of understand. My son's a state rep over in Maryland, and I'm telling you now, that's the way he knows that that's what was going down. A lot of them and a lot of times when you see those people looting and burning up stuff, they're just people of opportunity. They see the police distracted over here, so they go over here to try to get a free lunch. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's just they're not a part of that
It's
movement.
opportunists. Yeah, they were opportunists. I agree with that. But I gotta move it on. But yeah, most of the rioters going in Best Buy and taking TVs and shit, they don't care nothing about the cause. They see, as you said, they see an opportunity that the police are distracted and they're using it to go somewhere else and get free shit. Appreciate you coming in though, Lewis.
All right, now take care. Thanks, Tim.
Absolute, absolute. Bro, you guys are lost, says Del Toro Albertito. How are we lost? Two gentlemen having a conversation. Feel free to come in the box. We can have a conversation with you as well. I got a hat and mustache. I cannot remember the woman's name. Appreciate your generosity. We were having a fairly passionate conversation, but I don't let your generosity go unnoticed. I try to call you folks out. Do appreciate that. Thank you anytime that happens. As always, tap the screen. Over 100. Wow, you guys have been good shit. Appreciate that. Tap the screen. Maybe 120,000. There's still over 800 of you folks in here. June Crystal. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Question we're asking: President Trump, his poll numbers continue to rise. Saw a CNN poll yesterday. His lead over DeSantis is growing. It is growing. Just got his second indictment in 2 months, and he is widely expected to get another indictment in July or early August by way of Georgia. So Georgia is on my mind. In fact, the prosecutor down in Georgia has already asked for resources to provide protection, outside the courthouse or whatever when they get his ass. So it's pretty clear that Georgia is going to indict Trump. So he is facing a third indictment. And we know there's a huge, and I mean, as Trump would say, huge with a Y, a huge civil case against the former commander-in-chief in New York to the tune of $250 million. They are trying to Alex Jones Trump in New York. So he's facing a hell of a lot of shit. But with all of that being faced on President Trump, why is his support numbers growing? That's what we're asking. All right, we'll keep it moving in the box. As always, the program shall forever in its entirety remain MAGA friendly. MAGA are my preferred guests. Liberals are welcome as well, as you may see. And I want to make it clear, we do allow folks to speak. It's always about First Amendment free speech rights here. We're not going to block, ban, or censor you because of what you have to say. The host is not going to limit your time or block you in any way because you disagree with the host. It's not about that here. We do allow you to speak, so understand that. Looking in the comments, Trump is a racist. Racist criminal, always has been. Time caught up with him. Stephen Solis, then you're going to have to explain why so many prominent members of the African American community, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, these are civil rights leaders, by the way, used to hang out with Trump quite a bit. I mean, he has pictures with all of these folks. What is the boxing promoter, Don King? He's still friends with Mike Tyson. If he is the way you're suggesting, I'm not here to argue your point, but we have to tackle that question. Why are there so many prominent members? Star! Yeah! Appreciate the hat mustache. Why are there so many prominent members of the African American community that have a lengthy history of hanging around President Trump? He used to be a Democrat. We didn't say Democrat, we said racist. Person in the comments said he was a racist. I have to ask, why would Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton hang with somebody that had that type of label? Going back to the box, we'll keep it moving. Oh my God, the picture alone is worthy of a discussion, but let's have it. The handsome Cotton. Good afternoon. Trump's poll numbers continue to rise despite the amount of litigation orbiting him. I guess my last caller is not going to come in here, so we'll keep it moving. Come on, my guy. Because you have a black doesn't mean you're not racist. That is true, but when you're talking about hanging around black civil rights leaders, you're talking about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson were actually active with Martin Luther King. Jesse Jackson was on the balcony within reaching distance of MLK when he got assassinated. Why would somebody like that be hanging around Trump if Trump is the R word, the racist word? So I'm just asking the question. I think it's a legitimate question to ask. He bankrolled Jesse Jackson election bud. Well, Burger Time, why would a racist bankroll a black person running for president? The more responses you give, the more questions I have to ask. If we rub Preparation H on a Democrat, do they become a Republican? Why would a Democrat need Preparation H? Are you suggesting we have hemorrhoids? Because he donated to their cause as Cleve Dog. Could be right, but if you are a true civil rights leader, you should not basically take on the services or listen to the needs of a racist because they donate you money. That would mean that Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton are really frauds, if what you're saying is correct. All right, we'll keep it moving. My last guest did not come through. Nevertheless, Ernie Contreras Jr., good afternoon. Let's see if it works. Trump poll numbers are growing. Why is that, Ernie? Good afternoon.
Man, that's the $1 million question, like everybody's asking, right? Like, what's going on? Like you said earlier, I think I heard you say earlier that, the Republicans are the party of law and order, but yet this guy has
That's what,
30, you know what I mean? And this guy has 37 felonies, not one, like you said, not two, but
yeah.
37. Anybody else out in the streets like us, we'd be in prison right now. We wouldn't even be
Yeah.
out on the streets.
We'd
And
be taking a plea deal. We would. Our
oh, for
lawyer
sure.
would look at us
In
and
a
tell. Our lawyer would
in
look
a
at us and
heartbeat,
tell
I'd
us.
be like, you know what? Give me 2 years, bro. I'm good with good time. I'll probably be out half of that time. Just get it over with. Because
But what
if
if?
I
But
was,
not if you. Wait a minute though. Not if you're 76. Trump is 76 years old. He
I
can't
mean,
do a
he's
month.
yeah, but I think I just saw the other day, one of his ex-lawyers or something said that like he said, he's 76, and he goes, he's looking at maybe dying in prison with all those charges. He looked at his charges and he goes, espionage one is the biggest one. You know what I mean? The espionage charge is a huge one. He goes, that carries up to 30 years in prison. You're basically gonna die in prison if you get convicted of one. And like you said, Jack Smith would not bring out these charges if he didn't feel 100% confident that he was going to get at least one
Yeah,
guilty out of those.
the feds are not known for throwing bullshit charges. That's why they have a 96% conviction rate. When they come after you, they literally have done their homework already. What's hurting Trump in particular is because he tried to use his own attorneys
Yep.
to help him in some of the crimes. His attorneys no longer have what they call attorney-client privilege. So the moment your client tries to get you to commit a crime, you now lose the ethical ability to keep quiet about it. So a lot of the folks that are on his indictments are his own attorneys. Like, he was trying to get us to do this and this and this. So that's where it's going to really be an issue with him trying to beat this. So, but in the comments, I want to ask you this. Stephen Lucas is saying, talking about the Democrats, I assume, they're scared he will win and they're trying to bury him. Do you think that this stuff is coming after Trump? All of these cases orbiting around Trump. Do you think it's just simply a political hit job to prevent him from becoming president again?
I don't think so because they were doing it before he announced that he was running for president again.
Yeah,
You know what
we
I
knew
mean?
he was running. He
Oh
didn't
yeah,
have to
yeah.
announce. We knew he was
Yeah.
running.
No, but I mean, even Mark Meadows turned on him because he's got a little bit of immunity. You know what I mean? He took a plea deal, so that means he gave them enough information for them to say, okay, we won't convict you of these crimes, but I mean, he's still going to be convicted of some, right? He's still going to do some time in jail, is what they're saying. But he
Yeah.
must have given the feds enough information about Trump that gets him out of heavy,
Yeah, he got
you know,
immunity. Yeah, he got
yeah,
immunity.
yeah, so something. So he said something to the feds that made them think, okay, that's enough of good of information. You know what I mean? And to top it all off, he was caught on tape. I mean, he was caught his own verbiage that he had
Yeah.
classified information that he probably could have declassified, but he didn't. But he still had it in his possession. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'll agree with you that. Now, I understand a lot of folks, particularly my beloved MAGA, do not trust the feds. That's a legitimate
Mhm.
case to make. But if they are in a court of law able to prove what they are alleging on that indictment, I don't see how he survives. Like you mentioned, they're suggesting they have audio of Trump. If they're able to present audio of President Trump admitting that he knew what he was showing somebody was classified and he knew it was wrong, that's like a confession. How do you get out of that?
Exactly. Like you know what I mean? You're on tape. They have the pictures when they raided Mar-a-Lago. They have the pictures of the classified information. It's not like it's not out there on the internet now, you know what I mean? When he unsealed the indictments, all the information is out there for everybody to read. The problem is most of the MAGA cult that I call isn't going to read that. You know what I mean? They're not going to read the information that's provided to them out in the public. So
Yeah,
at the end of the day, the reason his numbers are still climbing is because there is not one solid Republican candidate that really wants to take him on, except for Chris Christie. Chris Christie's on the rampage right now on him. So
yeah,
he's the only. I mean, he's the only one that's been going after him. The other
yeah.
ones
But
are
they're
kind of
they're
like,
suggesting Chris Christie is only in the race to bash Trump.
no, I genuinely think that he believes he could beat Trump. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I think he. I mean,
Why? Have you? I
I
mean,
don't,
when you look at
I don't, I don't, I
the
don't get it.
polls,
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why he would even try to run. You know what I mean? And DeSantis's numbers are plummeting because of what's going on in Florida. His anti-immigration bill is truly,
well,
affecting the
I
state.
think this DeSantis numbers are plummeting because Trump told people Trump took his card from him. I think if Trump was endorsing DeSantis, the stuff he's doing in Florida would not hurt him at all. I think Trump pulled his
Well,
card, and
I
that's
think it's
that's
no, I think you're wrong on that one. I think it is because you have farmers and you have those state politicians in Florida already crying, come back, please don't leave the state.
yeah.
It's hurting us. Our economy's taking a dump. My fields are not being worked on because, you guys are leaving my state. I don't have enough workers. It wasn't that the issue that, that they were like, well, we need the workers. Well, you have all those American, workers that are available to you, yet they don't want to do those jobs, right? So I think
Yeah.
at the end, right now it's still early, but let's say Florida unfortunately will get hit with the hurricane, right? Because most of the time they do. How fast can they recover from a hurricane being hit in Florida before DeSantis is put in the spotlight again? Like, hey,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
infrastructure is
Well,
not right.
yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that could be a problem. Let me ask you this, and I asked this in a poll. I'd like to see what you folks have to say. If President Trump took a plea deal, let's say, if obviously taking a plea deal is admitting guilt. If he took a plea deal on some of these charges, I'm talking to my MAGA folks, would you still vote for the commander in chief if he pled guilty to committing some of these serious felonies? Would you still vote for him? I actually did a poll. I like to see that.
I
But what do
don't,
you
I
think?
don't, I don't think he can run, right? If he has a felony if
Yeah,
he has
he
a
can.
felony, I don't. Can he?
Yeah, he can. Yeah, I think
I
unless I
thought you
think
were.
the espionage charge. I think the
Mm,
espionage charge is the only one that will stop him from running. But yeah, for the most
okay.
part, he can still
I
run.
thought, yeah. Well, I was under the impression if you had a felony or anything on your record, you couldn't run as a president because of the top secret clearances that you have that you
Yeah,
have
that is
to
the
get.
weirdest. Yeah, that is the weirdest shit. Somebody in my comment section said that, like, Trump could not even get a security clearance right now, and
He won't be
it
able
doesn't
to.
matter if
No.
he's found. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's found
Yeah.
guilty in court or not. He does not qualify for a security clearance at this point. So how
He
could
won't
you
be able to
become
attend. Yeah,
president?
he won't be able to attend any of the military meetings. You know what I mean? Because of that. So how can you be the commander in chief when you don't even know what your military is talking about in those closed door meetings, right? Like he's not going to be
Yeah,
allowed in those because if you can't hold a top secret clearance, they're not going to tell you what's going on. You know what I mean? He's going to be left
yeah,
out of
I'm a,
left
I'm
out
a,
of the loop.
yeah. In my humble opinion, and I always enjoy talking to folks on the right, and certainly MAGA, and I always like folks getting their say. But with all of this stuff that's going on, I do think it's going to be real difficult for Trump to successfully become commander in chief again. I mean, it's like trying to hold it together with duct tape at this point. I mean, when you start thinking about the fact that he won't even qualify for a security clearance, like, how could you run the country when they can't even tell you what's happening? So,
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's just,
that at the end of the day, I have some MAGA friends too, and I told them, I go, at the end of the day, okay, let's say he runs for the presidency and he's convicted and he wins the Republican nomination. But if he wins presidency, how can you trust him knowing that he cannot be the commander in chief per se? The vice president would, from what I was told, the vice president would be in charge of the military, and if Trump was president, he wouldn't be able to attend any of those military meetings. And that's coming from a military personnel. He's like, they won't allow.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't see how the logistics of it could even be accomplished. It does seem fairly complicated at this point. But Ernie, I do got to move it on. I always
Thank you,
appreciate you
sir.
coming in, man. Good talk.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yep.
You too. All right, looking in the yes, because he is not guilty. Well, some of it he is guilty of. And I had a show I asked yesterday, not to bash Trump when I say he is guilty of it, but I even asked you fine folks. My audience is a hell of a lot of MAGA. The question we asked on yesterday's show was, is Trump 100% innocent? A lot of folks pointed out that Biden did shit too. Certainly Hillary Clinton, her servers, cleaning shit with bleach, that came up. And then, of course, Mike Pence to some degree. All of these things came up, and there's some validity in those points. However, none of that is to say that, yes, Trump is 100% innocent. No one said that. No matter how many folks I brought on, and I was deliberately looking for Trump supporters to bring on, everyone I brought on pointed to somebody else who did the same shit and suggested it's wrong to go after Trump for it. But no one said he is actually innocent of what they're accusing him of, which is another complicated issue because when you're in court being charged of something, pointing to other folks that got away with the same crime generally does not help your case. I don't care what you are charged with in America in a court of law. There is somebody else in this country that did the same damn thing and got away with it. Bringing that up in your case is not going to help you out. It really is not. I don't care if it's murder or speeding. Somebody else out there did the same thing and got away with it. And presenting that in your case is not going to help you out. And that is really the only defense currently for President Trump. No one's saying he didn't do this stuff. We're saying that, well, you didn't treat Biden or Hillary or Pence the same way. I don't know how much the courts are going to entertain that, because the judge usually has control over what the jury gets to hear. And they're not going to go in there and relitigate the cases of Hillary Clinton or try to hold Biden accountable or Pence on a court case. That's not what they're there for. They're there to determine if Trump is guilty or innocent. So even if Trump has counsel that's trying to bring all these other cases, that stuff is irrelevant. They're going to probably, you object, they're going to constantly be objecting. That's not relevant for the case, bringing up other people's crimes. So I don't see how it works. I mean, we've seen Trump escape some pretty harrowing shit before, but the amount of shit is getting bigger. Not to say he cannot escape it, but it does look perilous. All right, looking in the comments. And by the way, folks, I appreciate the 120,000 likes. Damn. You guys were spot on today. It's always a pleasure hollering at you folks. As always, the program is MAGA friendly. Always will be MAGA friendly, by the way, but liberals are welcome as well. You know we don't block, ban, or censor anyone. Far left is left of Bernie Sanders, and we go far right as I'm having dinner with QAnon. We let the people speak. If the only way President Biden has of winning if he goes to jail, wait a minute. If the only way President Biden has of winning is if he goes to jail, Houston, we have a problem. I think I get what Kermit is saying. In other words, the only way Biden can win is if Trump becomes incarcerated, meaning that currently a head-up match between Biden versus Trump, if Trump is not found guilty of anything, Trump would beat him. I don't know if the polls say that. I'm giving the Trump credit that the polls, in terms of him running against DeSantis and Christie and all these other folks, Trump is way out in the lead. But Trump head up against Biden is not like that. It's not like that. And also, regardless of where the polls are right now in June of 2023, Trump is going to be in court off and on a lot between November 2024 and now. So, and nothing good is going to come out of that. Damn! Took your boy on a safari with that giraffe. Holy cow. Shout out. Damn, thank you. Thank you. Absolute a pleasure. Thank you. There's a lot of stuff going to come out about President Trump. Some of it might be leaked by liberals that are trying to hurt him or other Republicans that do not like him. But in regards to these cases, nothing good is going to come out. And each time something bad comes out, it's going to cause Trump to ooze a few more voters. I mean, they're charging the guy with espionage right now. It could be a totally bullshit witch hunt made up case. But we have to see what evidence the feds present to justify why they're charging him with such a serious crime. If whatever they present, whether you think Trump is guilty or not, is not going to help Trump in terms of support. Stuff like the audio tape they claim he has. All of this stuff is costing him voters. That's not making people want to vote for him. When I say his support is growing, it's growing among Republicans. It's not growing among independents. And that's what both parties need to win. So we'll see. We'll see. But I don't think the only way Biden can win is Trump going to jail. He didn't go to jail in 2020. Lock him under. Damn. Not lock him up, lock him under. Yikes. Feds have like an 80% conviction rate. They don't bring weak cases. Thunder, Dan, you are correct. However, they have a 96% conviction rate. It's significantly higher than 80%. It is significantly higher. AB making it rain. Thank you. Democrats is not only Biden, it's the all system. Yeah. Well, folks on the right believe that the only reason Trump is facing these charges is that Biden is orchestrating them. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I don't see any evidence of that. Would you still vote for Trump if he took a plea deal? That was the poll I presented. In the response, 33% of you, 33.7% of you said yes. Taking a plea deal means you are admitting you are guilty in a court of law. 33% said yeah, they would still vote for Trump. 66% said no, but that's significant. 33% said they would vote for the guy even if he admitted in a court of law he was guilty. Wow. Wow. That's the Fifth Avenue deal. That is, I could, literally drop government secrets in the middle of Fifth Avenue and people would still vote for me. Looking in the comments. Uneducated is Trumpies. Does not end no plea deal will be taken. No, Raider Nation, I don't think Trump will take a plea deal. He is 76 years old. Only way Trump takes a plea deal is if it includes no jail time. That's the only way, and he's being faced with a lot of serious felonies. Now, I do, maybe some of you do too, believe that the goal definitely involves him not becoming president again. And I think even with 0 jail time, if he simply was taken off the ballot and prevented from running again, there are a lot of liberals that would consider that a victory. So I'm not going to deny folks on the right, particularly MAGA, who say you guys don't want him to run again. That is part of the goal. That doesn't mean he's innocent, but I do believe that is a huge part of the goal, is to prevent him from running again. But if you're using crimes he actually committed as a reason why you have that goal, that's a legitimate take. I don't believe everything that Jack Smith is presenting on Trump, or everything that Bragg presented on Trump, or everything that's going to come out of Georgia. I don't believe he's 100% innocent of all of that shit. Do I believe they're trying to prevent him from running again? Yeah. Do I believe it's political to some degree? Yeah. But they're using stuff he actually did to be political. Like I stated before on yesterday's broadcast, it's like I get pulled over by the cops for speeding, and I start talking shit to the cops and piss the cops off. And all of a sudden they're writing tickets on my tires being bald, your windows are tinted too dark, and things like that. They're fucking with me, yes, but they're using actual violations to do it. They're not making up stuff. They're just going after me on things they would normally let me get away with. E. Jean Carroll would never have won against a Trump that was more gracious and humble because of his attitude and the way he acted, and also bragging about grabbing women and things like that. He talked himself into a conviction. So, yeah, I do believe they're going after Trump, but they're using things he legitimately did to make it happen. Looking in the comments, do you think he's guilty? 333, I just stated, out of all of the stuff they're charging him with, yeah, I don't believe he's 100% innocent of all that shit. And let me just make it clear, even as a liberal, I'm not blaming Trump specifically. I would believe my own damn mama. If they were charging her with all of this shit all over the country like this, you got cases in Georgia. What did Biggie Smalls say? Cases in Virginia, body in D.C. If you got shit like that, all of these different departments, state and federal, are coming after you, dude, you guilty of something. All these people ain't making up shit about you like that. But I understand folks on the right do believe that all of this, 100% of it, is made up just to discredit the guy. I can't see that. I don't believe that. I also will say I dispel the notion. I totally disagree with the belief that if you are a liberal judge, liberal prosecutor, liberal court official, you cannot judge Trump effectively. I don't believe that the only way Trump can be judged effectively has to be done by MAGA personnel. That to me is bullshit. And that's what you often hear from Trump, is that any judge, anybody handling one of his cases, if they're liberal, then they're unfair to me. Our system could never run if the person holding you accountable had to have the same political affiliation as you. That doesn't make sense, but that is something Trump is constantly doing, is bringing up the political affiliation of the judges and prosecutors and DAs that are going after him. That makes no sense at all. He even done that earlier in his case, I think on the Trump University case, by saying the judges are Mexican or something like that. That shouldn't come up. That should not come up. That's wrong. That would be like me as an African American suggesting that a judge cannot adjudicate my case because he's white. People, are you fucking crazy? People would go off on me for saying that. But he is doing that over and over and over again, that Democratic judges cannot be fair and unbiased. That right there, to some degree, in my humble opinion, is probably what's going to cause him trouble with future judges, because that's somewhat disrespectful to assume that a person's politics just removes their ability to be fair and impartial. I lean left. I could judge Trump fairly. My political leanings don't affect if I'm hearing what they're suggesting and determining whether he's guilty or not. And I have not had a law degree and served on the bench. What he's doing in that case, in my humble opinion, is disrespectful to our courts. Is to suggest that all liberals are going to be biased and not do their jobs properly when dealing with him. That's wrong to do that. Looking in the comments, this guy won't talk about Biden crime family. We discussed Biden on the program today. You just weren't here yet. I would rather have a white judge than a sellout black judge. Makes it worse if you're found guilty. That's an interesting point, Kerman. I believe was it Mississippi? It was either Mississippi or Alabama. I think it was Mississippi. Just last week, they ruled that state was deliberately disenfranchising black voters. Went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and even with a Republican Supreme Court, they ruled in favor of the African American community and suggest that they were indeed gerrymandering African Americans to the point where their votes were being silenced. The dissenting judge, Clarence Thomas. So your point that I would rather have a white judge than a sellout black judge doesn't fall on deaf ears, because Clarence Thomas ruled against it. Clarence Thomas was down with what they were doing. He was going to let it continue. Trump can't be trusted with America's secrets. Wow. Big surprise. Jesus is embarrassed by Republicans. I don't necessarily agree with that. Defend the den, because I do believe the Republican Party probably is responsible for more folks following Jesus than the Democratic Party. I mean, our party is more embracing of other religions, atheism, and all kinds of shit. The Democratic Party, you almost have to be Christian to even gain access, with the exception of Trump. I don't know how Trump got to be president with his lack of Christian background, but generally the Republican Party is hardcore pro-Christian. Remember when Obama was going to run and the elderly woman stood up at a town hall and told John McCain, I can't vote for him because he's a Muslim? Shout out to John McCain for taking the mic out of that woman's hand and actually suggested that, no, Biden is a good man. He's just not leading the country in the right way. So shout out to the late John McCain. But yeah, you got to be Christian on the conservative side of the aisle. Handsome watch Derek Johnson. I have to see that. Start reading bills and stop watching TV, says Taz. Well, the way a lot of bills are written, Taz, they're written in legalese to the point where even if a lot of Americans read them, they wouldn't understand them. Also, make no mistake about it, I'm sure you are aware of what pork is. Mr. Winbill, I think that is. Appreciate the subscription. I just saw that. Thank you. I'm sure you're aware of what pork is. If you read bills, some of them you might not ever be done reading them. They put so much shit in those things, literally bury it so that when you pass the bill, you don't know what's in there. And yeah, most Americans are not interested in reading bills. Hell, even some of the folks that sign the bill into law do not even read it. Read the indictment. Now that's different. The indictment is written like a damn novel. This is why the GOP loves you. The GOP, I have no problem with the GOP. That's why I like to speak to the GOP. It's all about free speech here, folks. Anyhow, folks, it is indeed a lunch break live. You know what I have to do around this time? 133,000 likes. Damn. Appreciate it. It's been a good program. As always, I always suggest, if you do enjoy civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle, without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored because somebody disagrees with your opinion, you are in the right place. Follow the channel. Monday through Friday, we have these conversations. Folks come in the box, get to state their point. Nobody's going to limit your time or try to change your opinion. You are entitled to speak. Understand that. The very First Amendment gives you that right. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I got to go.